areas, although them just down a touch compared to what we saw on Saturday morning. We're continuing to see outbreaks of heavy rain across eastern parts of England, so adding to some localised flooding in places here. Temperatures overnight will be a little bit above average, staying above zero with those brisk northerly winds, but it will be feeling really chilly to start the day on Sunday morning, particularly where you're exposed to that northerly wind. A damp start to the day across eastern parts of England, outbreaks of rain continuing to push their way south and eastwards, although perhaps becoming persistent at times. But across western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, those winds really starting to ease down, and we might even see some sunshine through the afternoon, so feeling a bit more pleasant here. Temperatures will still be around average for the time of year, but it will be feeling really quite chilly under that cloud in that northerly wind.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, happy Saturday afternoon. It's 12 o'clock, it's a Saturday, and it is just before Christmas, and I'm not ready, I bet you're not ready either. This is the weekend on GB News. Now, we have got a cracking show lined up for you, but we are starting with the big story of the day, the nightmare before Christmas. Red weather warnings have been issued as Storm Darragh batters parts of the UK with winds of up to 90 miles an hour. And January discontent, yes. The Conservatives warn small businesses will be ravaged by Labour tax rises after Christmas, with some businesses reportedly set to pay £32,000 more in tax per year. And after it was nearly destroyed in a devastating fire 5 years ago, Notre-Dame finally reopens today after a miraculous rebuilding project. That That's a lovely story, isn't it? And we're out there live covering it for you. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend, and it starts right here and now. I'm thinking that needs a bit of tinsel, doesn't it? Everything else is really festive, and I've got festive jingles, we've got Christmas trees, I've even got Santa hats for my panellists. But that weekend thing, it's just like, it's quite summery, isn't it? Any case, this show is all about you. It's not about me or my panellists, it's all about you and your opinions. So let me know what you think of all the stories we're talking about today, and indeed anything you want to have a chat about. It's December, it's Christmas, we're a much more chilled vibe, aren't we? So have a chat. It's very easy to join in. It's gbnews.com/your say, and come and have a chat with us. Join us. Now, keeping me company this hour, cracking panel for you, is Labour Party activist Chris Worrell and journalist and broadcaster Mike Parry. Now, despite being political opposites, they have one thing in common, don't you, boys?
Certainly do.
Go on.
Everton fans. We're going to talk about the weather probably sometime in the show, and the biggest injury factor from the weather so far is that the Everton-Liverpool derby has been called off amazingly because the weather up there. But Dawn, we can't thank you for wearing Everton's colours.
Oh yeah, I know.
The game could have
I
gone
knew
ahead.
this was a thing, right? Okay, I wanted a bit of sympathy on this Saturday afternoon. So thank you for joining me, boys. Appreciate it. But before we get stuck into all of today's stories, let's get those news headlines with Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you, and very good afternoon to you. Fast approaching 3 minutes past 12. Well, millions of people are still being urged to stay indoors as Storm Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the UK. A rare risk-to-life red warning for wind was issued this morning, with gusts of up to 90 miles an hour already recorded, battering parts of Wales and southwest England. That red warning, though, has now expired, but the damage continues as yellow and amber warnings now for wind and rain remain in effect. Travel is being severely disrupted, with roads blocked and trains suspended after trees were torn down by the high winds. And over 30,000 homes are without power, and crews are now working to restore supplies, though there's no word yet on when power will be back up and running. Well, our reporter Sophie Reaper is out in the northwest of the country for us today, and she says there are big concerns for those amber rain alerts which continue to spread.
Well, here in the northwest, what Storm Darragh means for us is that we've been forecast heavy rain and wind gusts of around 70 to 80 miles per hour in certain places. And as a result, the Met Office has issued that amber weather alert for wind. That came into place around 1 o'clock this morning and will remain in place now until around 9 o'clock tonight. So the advice today is to avoid travel where you can, stay indoors where possible, and ultimately just stay safe.
Sophie Reaper there for us in the northwest. Well, the centre of the storm is now clearing into the North Sea, but that doesn't mean that conditions are set to improve anytime soon. Passengers at some of the UK's busiest airports have described terrifying descents this morning and harrowing landings as air traffic restrictions remain in place. Our reporter in Scotland, Tony Maguire, is at Glasgow Airport.
Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the country. Scotland has made it through Friday night relatively unscathed. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, well, they've got flood warnings for essentially all parts of the country, but only 2 have been escalated to flood alerts, and that is in Tayside as well as South Ayrshire. That amber warning that stretches across the northwest of England, well, that also leaks into Dumfries and Galloway, with residents there told to stay inside until the bad weather dies off.
Well, turning from that weather news here at home to some breaking lines coming to us from The Hague, where an explosion has reportedly destroyed a block of flats, with emergency services now scrambling to the scene there, reportedly injuring multiple people in that unexplained explosion. Residents in The Hague said they heard reportedly a huge bang and screams just before dawn, with one woman telling local media she thought there had been an earthquake. Part of one of the apartment complex has collapsed. A fire broke out earlier as well. Emergency services still on the scene. If If you're watching, you can see pictures there of the rubble and destruction left in the wake of that unexplained explosion, taking place just after 6 o'clock this morning, local time. We're hearing 4 people have been rescued so far from the rubble and taken to hospital, others believed still to be trapped. There's also a line coming to us from local media saying that there are reports of hearing a child calling for help as the building burned this morning. Images of the scene circulating on social media as well from a higher building showing the view of one area encompassing 5 apartments reduced to ash and rubble. As I say, so far 4 people rescued and continuing searches for any survivors. Dutch police say they're now investigating the cause of the unexplained explosion and are appealing for witnesses after hearing reports that a car was seen speeding away from the scene of that explosion. We will keep across any details coming to us from The Hague and bring you any latest lines as we get them. For now, though, that explosion taking place just after 6 o'clock local time. 4 people rescued so far. Turning to Paris, where Prince William is set to meet Donald Trump ahead of the Notre-Dame Cathedral's grand reopening ceremony later today. The Prince of Wales will discuss the UK-US special relationship with the President-elect and meet the outgoing First Lady Jill Biden. The ceremony, being hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, features the opening of the cathedral's huge doors and the reawakening of its organ and the first mass there since its restoration. It's also Prince William's first visit to Paris since 2017. MPs in South Korea have been voting today on whether to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol, but it's set to fail. 194 MPs have been in the chamber, but 106 from the People Powers Party walked out in protest, leaving opposition members chanting traitors and get back in to vote. The impeachment requires 200 people to vote, and most of the ruling party MPs are boycotting that session. It follows, of course, Mr Yoon's apology for declaring martial law, a move that critics have called an attempted coup. Here, more than 1 million children are being pushed into poverty because of high housing costs, according to a new report. The Resolution Foundation says 27% of children in poverty would not be below the poverty line if housing were more affordable. Those in private rents are hit the hardest. The charity is calling on the government to make tackling housing costs a key focus of its child poverty strategy. The report also highlights the urgent need for action as families struggle to make ends meet. Those are the latest headlines for now. Plenty more on that breaking news from The Hague as we get it. Now, though, it's over to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. That definitely needs tinsel, by the way. I'm sorry, it definitely needs tinsel. I just want to say hello to Megan and, of course, a grumpy granddad who are already getting in touch. And good idea, get in touch. We want to talk to you at gbnews.com/yoursay because you don't want to be going out because the weather is not good. So you may as well snuggle in front of the telly, mince pie, cup of tea, maybe something slightly stronger, nice mulled wine or something, because that weather out there is pretty grim, to be honest with you. And it is indeed our top story this afternoon. The nightmare before Christmas. Danger to life weather warnings have been issued as Storm Darragh batters parts of the UK, with winds of up to 90 miles an hour. Around 3 million people have been urged to stay indoors after the Met Office issued a rare red weather warning in parts of Wales and southwest England. Brits are now braced for a weekend of chaos with delayed flights, cancelled trains and even postponed sports fixtures. More of that coming up in my panel. The Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool is the one that's been caught. I've got 2 Everton fans with me, I'm getting distracted. Talking of that, we have now going to go to meteorologist John Ketley to find out more what's happening with this storm. John, lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining me. Storm Darragh, I mean, it is a very rare red weather warning, isn't it, in this country?
It is, but they've only been using these amber, yellow, red alerts for about 10, 12 years, something like that. But I think it's a brilliant thing. It's a brilliant idea. But sadly, it is a brutal storm. This Darragh has come on the back of Bert, which is only 2 weeks ago, and it affected Wales very badly indeed. So it's hardly surprising that it was updated to a red very quickly. And these conditions, although they're just beginning to ease very slightly at the moment, it is still very, very nasty out there at the moment, across in Wales and other parts of the country too. Now, the centre of that storm came across northern England overnight, so things actually quietened down considerably. You wouldn't think so, with the racing being off at Aintree and the football, of course, at Goodison Park and other games as well. But the centre of the storm now is moving off the Wash and into the southern North Sea, and that could affect the near continent. That's quite important too. So we are seeing a bit of a change across eastern parts of England, especially where it's been so quiet through the morning. The heavy rain's beginning to move in from the north now. The winds are strengthening. So for much of the country, much of the UK, we are still seeing winds in excess of 40 to 50 miles an hour. And occasionally in the west today, up to 70 to 80 miles an hour as far west as Northern Ireland. And gradually, in the next 24 hours, we'll start to see the worst of those windy conditions, although moderating to some degree across eastern parts. And down the east coast tomorrow, it'll be near gale force winds for much of the time as well, with more of these pictures that we can see here, more heavy driving rain sweeping in off the coast.
These storms do seem to be pretty dramatic at the moment. I mean, is it unusual for them to have 90-mile-an-hour winds?
Well, it's one of the more severe storms when you get 90 miles an hour gusts. This isn't the average 90 miles an hour, of course, it's gusting up to 90. But the coastal areas where we see the pictures, these are the most exposed areas, apart from being on top of Cairngorm or something, yes, top of Scafell Pike. So these are the more exposed areas which are seeing the biggest gales and the biggest wind gusts. And very dramatic pictures they are too. But it is a brutal storm, there's no doubt about it. They've been going on throughout my lifetime, let me say this. And I'm sure Porky Mike Parry will obviously agree that throughout his lifetime, he's seen similar conditions to this. It's upsetting for Mike because we've lost the match at Goodison, but there'll be another day, and perhaps next time when they rearrange the fixture, it'll be flat calm on a Tuesday night.
I'm grateful because I've got your company and I've got Mike Parry's company rather than watching the football. Is this going to go after the weekend? Is it going to get calmer next week?
Yeah, big change coming along Dawn actually through the week. Still some breeze, still some strong breezes across the southeast into Monday and Tuesday, actually, and still some splashes of rain coming in off the North Sea as well, but nothing like we've got now. So as you go through Tuesday into the end of the week and maybe into Saturday as well, high pressure takes over, and high pressure at this time of the year can only mean one thing. Well, it can mean two things. It can bring frost, and it can bring some rather stubborn freezing fog patches as well, which is not very nice if you're travelling about. So it's been a rough old weekend, of course, for the retail industry. People can't get to the shops as they would like to do. And then when you start to get the fog developing through the week and the quieter conditions, then sadly, once again, people will be hunkering down inside because, it could be quite foggy outside. Not everywhere, but some patches of freezing fog are on the cards in the next week, certainly.
Wise move to stand and watch GB News, to be honest with you. The one thing I wanted to ask you, John, quickly, finally, is the government's emergency alert system was sent on Friday, to 3 million people. Is this a new thing? Have I missed out on this one?
I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, I think they did trial it. Didn't they send out this alert siren hooter onto your mobile phone about 2 or 3 years ago? It never came on my phone, I can tell you.
No, me neither.
There's something wrong with the system somewhere, but hopefully the people who've been really badly affected in the past 12 to 18 hours over Wales especially, I hope all the people there got it. I do wonder, but, it is a brutal storm. It's a very nasty storm. I'm not belittling it at all. It's been a really bad winter storm, but we have seen them before, and no doubt there's some more to come in the future.
OK, great. Thank you very much. That's meteorologist John Ketley on Storm Darragh, which is easing across the country, but there has been a lot of damage and travel is not great at the moment. So do keep watching, and we'll bring you up to date on any more developments that you need. Now, the Conservatives claim that small businesses face a January of discontent due to new taxes introduced by the Labour government. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, that's her there, introduced a raft of measures in her recent budget that many fear will negatively impact small businesses, including an increase in employers' national insurance. Remember, that's the thing they weren't going to touch. And changes to business rates. This is according to the Tories, obviously. All this will result in some businesses paying as much as £32,000 more a year in tax. So we're asking, can Labour be trusted on the economy and to act in the interest of British business? Joining me today is Labour Party activist Chris Worrell and broadcaster and journalist Mike Parry, both Evertonians who are here with me because the football's off. I'm going to come to you first on this one, Chris. I mean, it's pretty damning report. We need to save our high streets. We all know that. They're really struggling. But this doesn't sound like anything Labour are doing tax-wise. It's going to help.
I don't know, John. I'd say that, under Keir Starmer's plan for growth, growing back the economy's, front and centre of the Labour Party's plan, and small businesses with the small...
Oh, I'm sorry, we've got a problem with your mic. Sorry, not your fault. We're just going to... Mike, come to you. We will come back to you and get that sorted.
Yeah.
Mike, sorry.
I read a story last week about a guy who's a small property investor, and I'm a small property investor, but I invest mostly in apartments, flats and all this. This guy invests in shops, OK? And he told the story of how one small shop on the high street, the lease is coming up for renewal. He can't find anybody to take up the lease on his shop because the last guy gave it up because with the associated cost of national insurance increase, with the associated cost of the minimum wage going up, with the associated cost of business rates, it's now virtually impossible for a small shop on the high street employing 2 or 3 people to make any sort of profit whatsoever. They make a loss, and therefore I see utter devastation across the high street as small businesses go down. That report that you've just cited, 32,000 on a medium-sized business, is 10,000 for a small business. Now, even people in huge businesses, like the boss of Iceland, the high street frozen food, he supported Labour before the election and said, I think they've got a sensible policy, I think Rachel Reeves is good. He's now turned. He is of the view now that actually there could have been misleading information as to what the Labour Party were going to do for business before the election.
Chris, sorry, hopefully we can talk to you now. Your mic's up and running. You were saying before, you were rudely interrupted.
It's all right. No, just on Mike's point, I think if we're talking about misleading numbers, and we're going to trust the Tories on anything, the amount of things put into place by this Labour government for small businesses is encouraging. We've had a 22 billion black hole that the last Tory government didn't seem to manage to calculate.
But that's been disputed, Chris.
Well, the OBR,
disputed.
The OBR have been pretty clear with it.
And a load of money went into the to the public sector pay award, so that causes a black hole.
I would say 22 billion has been why these tax rises have come in, and what Labour's done is they put record levels of public investment. And there's one thing that small business owners are going to care about. It's we've had the highest record of level of shoplifting on record this year, and London Assembly member Umesh Desai, Labour member, has pointed out, I think it's at 62,000 elements of shoplifting. Under the Tories, shoplifting was effectively legalised. You could get up to £200, go in, take what you like, and the police wouldn't even do anything. Now, what Yvette Cooper has been doing is putting 100 million to put 1,200 new community-based police officers in, contactable, named. Before, people working in the shops, they're just having to let these people nick the stuff. But now they'll have someone to call when that happens. And I think that's going to help businesses. £15 million worth of shoplifting costs of goods alone, I think, in the last year. And I think Iceland may be one of those ones that have been affected by it. So at the end of the day, what they have put in place is I think 26% of businesses have found that they can't access information. I think they spend 33 hours, small business owners, that's one myself as well, on internal admin alone. And with the services that they're going to be bringing in the small business strategy next year, they're going to have access to that. There's £1 billion put into the British Business Bank and a number of other initiatives that are set out to make life for small businesses better. And Johnny Reynolds has been clear on that in his discussion yesterday.
But shoplifting will go down because fewer and fewer people are able to run a shop in the high street because of the punitive taxes. I mean, aren't you shocked, Chris? I mean, you seem like a fairly, sensible sort of guy to me. You're not shocked about the amount of taxes that have been loaded on the private sector by the new Labour government. You've mentioned 22 billion as a black hole, which has been disputed, and a lot of it's gone to the public sector. But Rachel Reeves has lumped 40 billion on the economy. How does that add up?
This Labour government has been dedicated to inducing investment. If we're going to be talking about why high streets are on their knees, it's because under the last Tory government, we have effectively blocked house building. Those high streets need footfall. Those small businesses cannot pay those rents because they are not getting enough people through the door. Now, what we've been doing, the Labour Party has been doing, is dedicating enough resources into planning so we can get those high streets rebuilt. They've put in banking community hubs, so where that's a promise that they've made, where people haven't been able to go to the high street to do their banking services. And also, if we're going to be critical about this. We have a prison service that is bulging at the seams. We can't even lock people up. That's why, under the Tories, crime was effectively legalised for shoplifting. Angela Rayner has just called in, Gove could have done this ages ago, a 1,200 super prison.
All this, I mean, forgive me, I mean, all this does sound a bit like whataboutery.
Yeah.
But it is Small Business Saturday, and many, many small businesses, including people getting in touch now, saying they are going to struggle. They can't afford the changes that Labour are bringing in.
They simply can't. They can't afford the cost of it. I mean, you know, isn't it... I think that Labour, and I think Rachel Reeves, is economically illiterate. If she doesn't realise that you've got to take costs of the businessman down to promote growth, you don't get growth if you put the cost of business people up. And she's pushing it up all the time, and it's ludicrous. How is it ever going to work?
Maybe, unfortunately, we're going to come back to talk about this, but we're running out of time now. Maybe people running small businesses that aren't working people. Let me know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. For all the best analysis and opinion on that story and much more, please do go to our website, which is at gbnews.com. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. The King has cancelled several honours, removing 6 names from the official register, including Tory peer Lord Rami Ranger, who has been accused of harassing a journalist and making a series of derogatory comments on social media. That's a thing, isn't it? All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Bansky's Girl with Balloon is arguably one of the artist's most recognisable images. So when a limited edition print signed by the artist was stolen from Grove Gallery in London, an investigation was launched by the Metropolitan Police's flying squad. The work was thankfully retrieved. The desire to own great works of art has once again become evident this week, albeit a little further afield on the continent. Police in Italy have uncovered a criminal network forging artworks by Bansky, Andy Warhol, Pablo Picasso and others. Investigators said that they've seized more than 2,100 fake pieces of art with a potential market value of about £165 million. With me to discuss that case is the Chief Executive of Grove Gallery, James Ryan.
The art world needs to tighten up. It is known as a bit of a Wild West out there because people will try and chance it with these forgeries. You're quite right, there's only one actual original, but even auction houses have been hoodwinked before.
The burglary that you suffered is sub judice, so we have to be careful what we say about it. But it must have been a bit of a shock to you. I mean, was it a broken window, a smashed door?
At 10, 11 o'clock at night, and just hammer straight through, shoulder barging through the door, and then in and out. You know, gone in 60 seconds. I must say, I know.
Obviously, that targeted attack. The person would have known what he or she was after. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I must say, I know they cop a lot of flack, the police force, but the flying squad got the artwork back within 3 days. They were fantastic. So yeah, I've never heard or seen, other than the Thomas Crown affair type film. You know, I just didn't think it'd be happening to little old me, you know, in Fitzrovia, but it did, and thankfully we got it back.
GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. This is The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now we're off to Gay Paris, where today there will be a ceremonial reopening of the world-famous Notre-Dame Cathedral. 5 years after it was nearly destroyed by that devastating fire. Those pictures were horrendous, weren't they? Donald Trump is flying in to attend the ceremony, as is Prince William. And it's been revealed that the Prince of Wales will have a meeting with the US President-elect Trump today. French President Emmanuel Macron will be hoping that the occasion will distract from some of the political turmoil, putting it politely, in the country after Prime Minister Michel Barnier was ousted in a no-confidence vote earlier this week. It's good timing, isn't it? Let's have some distraction here. Let's open the cathedral. With us now, live from Paris, is GB News political correspondent Catherine. Catherine, looking resplendent in your festive red. How's it going over there today?
Yes, good afternoon, Dawn. Paris is... lots of it is locked down now. We were at Notre-Dame earlier, a whole section of the area around there totally locked down now. The same at the Élysée Palace, the residence of Macron. So we've moved out a little bit, but a huge day here because, of course, Notre-Dame reopening 5.5 years after that horrific fire. They've done an amazing job with the restoration, and they've got 50 heads of state coming, including, of course, President-elect Trump, who arrived early this morning, Prince William here for Britain, and the First Lady Jill Biden here as well. Now, we know that Prince William this afternoon will be meeting President-elect Trump. They last met back in 2019 when Trump was over on a state visit to the UK. We know, of course, that Trump was a huge fan of our late Queen. So a really great example of the soft power that the royal family can give us. And we also know that President Macron is having a meeting this afternoon at the Élysée Palace, first of all with Trump, and then separately with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Of course, Trump has said that he's going to end that war in one day. I suspect Zelensky may have a rather different idea about that. So all this, quite a diplomatic coup for Macron, but domestically, of course, he is really in trouble. A lot of people here absolutely fed up with him and his government, and effectively the government collapsed last week because Macron decided in the summer to call a parliamentary election when he didn't need to do so. That ended up with basically 3 blocs in parliament, the left, the centre and the right, none of whom were supportive of the other. Barnier, the Prime Minister, tried to push through a budget and lost a vote of confidence, has had to resign, and currently Macron is going to now have to get a new Prime Minister. Barnier is acting as a caretaker in the meantime, so it's very difficult to see how they get out of this sort of stalemate. They can't have more parliamentary elections before next summer, and President Macron, for his part, is saying that he is going nowhere. He's going to serve his full term, he says, right through until 2027. He is blaming the left and the right. He says that they've ganged up to choose chaos over responsibility. He's also saying, you know, this is what the voters have decided, but a lot of unhappiness with President Macron in France, and worth saying the French economy not doing well at all. So while many people feel that things are going badly in Britain, that lots of things in Britain are broken, a similar feeling really here in Paris.
Thank you very much. Catherine, quickly, what time is the actual opening ceremony taking place today?
It starts at 6 o'clock, I think, our time. 6 o'clock your time, I believe.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster in Paris for the reopening of Notre-Dame Cathedral. And Prince William is also out there, we believe. Now, today is the most popular day to put up a Christmas tree. You got yours up yet, Mike?
No, not yet.
Chris?
No, I've got a 10-month-old, so...
Oh, right, OK, yeah, I feel your pain, absolutely.
I don't have a big Christmas tree. I have lots of little silver ones.
Oh.
Dotted around the house, you know what I mean?
Is that Being lazy, basically.
No, it's just being practical.
Right, OK. In any case, it's the most popular day to put your Christmas tree up in the UK, unless you're Mike Perry, obviously. This is according to a survey by Furniture Box. A third of households are marking the start of the festive season by buying and decorating their tree in the first weekend of December. Mine's been up for a month. And this weekend... This weekend, one of the UK's biggest indoor Christmas tree festivals is being held, don't hold it against me, at Beverley Minster. And Anna Riley has the story.
Deck the halls. Christmas has come to Beverley Minster. It's hosting one of Britain's biggest Christmas tree festivals. There's over 150 trimmed fir trees on display at the medieval church.
They're all just with 100 white lights on. So there's a sort of a calmness about it. There's no flashing lights, there's no coloured lights. But then people start to witness what's happening. And one of the most important things to me is when someone says to me at the end of it, do you know what? I wasn't looking forward to Christmas, but now you've given me hope. That's what it's about.
From sunflowers to snowflakes and alpacas to angels, each tree has its own unique theme, designed and decorated by the community in Beverley and beyond. Charities, schools, businesses and local groups are all part of the event.
We represent Beverley Westwood Park Run here in Beverley. So we've got volunteers and participants on the tree. When you've done 10, 25, 50 park runs, you can get a milestone T-shirt. So we've got milestone T-shirts on the tree. We've got some of the little rules about dogs, one owner, each on a short lead, children, some of the signs that people will see out on the course. So it just encapsulates everything.
We've done it for quite a few years now, and with a different theme every year, or tried to, and it's a great thing to be part of. We try to help people locally, raise money for good causes.
Pygmy goats also made a guest appearance. They're part of Therapony and Ascend, who have a Christmas tree on display. The charity provides animal interactions for children and adults with special needs.
So we've got our 3 pygmy goats. They're 10 months old. This one is Harry, this one is Kobe, and this one is Darwin. So they're mad. They're mad, but they bring so much joy, and you can just see people just smile whenever they see them, and that's the whole idea of what we do. It's just to bring that extra something into people's lives.
The festival promises a magical experience under the Minster's soaring roof, with visitors in for a tremendous festive treat. Anna Riley, GB News.
Oh, Anna's been at the Christmas crackers early, hasn't she? The old jokes are the best. That's Anna Riley and Beverley Minster there with that story. Thank you very much, Anna. Well, I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. The King has cancelled several honours, removing 6 names from the official register, including Tory peer Lord Rami Ranger, who has been accused of harassing a journalist and making a series of derogatory comments on social media. But is it time to just scrap the honours system altogether? I mean, Sadiq Khan, David Beckham, a few names we're going to talk about coming soon. That's all after the news with Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you very much. 33 minutes past midday. Well, millions are still being urged across the country to stay indoors as Storm Darragh wreaks havoc across the UK. A rare risk-to-life red warning for wind was issued this morning, with gusts of up to 90 miles an hour battering parts of Wales and across the southwest coast. The red warning, though, has now expired, but damage continues as yellow and amber warnings for wind and rain are now in effect. Travel is also being severely disrupted, with roads blocked and trains suspended after trees were torn down by the high winds. Over 30,000 homes, in fact, are without power, and crews are still working to restore supplies, though at this stage there is no word on when that power supply will be back up and running. Well, the centre of the storm is now slowly clearing into the North Sea, but that doesn't mean that conditions are set to improve anytime soon. Our reporter, Doogie Beattie, is at Glasgow Airport for us, where there have been reports of harrowing landings this morning.
As Storm Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the country, Scotland has made it through Friday night relatively unscathed. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, well, they've got flood warnings for essentially all parts of the country, but only 2 have been escalated to flood alerts, and that is in Tayside as well as South Ayrshire. That amber warning that stretches across the northwest of England, well, that also leaks into Dumfries and Galloway, with residents there told to stay inside until the bad weather dies off.
And eagle-eyed viewers familiar with GB News reporters, you may have noticed that was, of course, Tony Maguire, not Doogie Beattie, reporting there from Glasgow. Well, in other news, an explosion has destroyed an apartment complex in The Hague, injuring multiple people, according to reports. Residents say they were woken by a loud bang and sounds of screaming before dawn, with one woman claiming she thought that blast could have been caused by an earthquake. Part of the building collapsed and a fire broke out, trapping residents inside. So far, 4 people have been rescued and taken to hospital, but authorities fear others may still be trapped. Dutch officials have deployed a specialised search and rescue team on scene, with dogs to help locate survivors and several ambulances also waiting for any further casualties. Well, police say they're also appealing for witnesses after a car was seen speeding away from the scene. And the countdown to Christmas is officially on this weekend. According to a new survey today, the 7th of December is the UK's most popular day for putting up a Christmas tree, with nearly a third of households decking the halls. The 2nd and 3rd Saturdays in December aren't far behind, though, but some eager decorators got a head start in November. And then there are the bargain hunters among you waiting until Christmas Eve to snap up heavily discounted trees. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for another full roundup at 1 o'clock. Now, though, back to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, loads of you have been getting in touch. I've been told of saying Gay Perry, evidently you can't say that anymore. That's me cancelled, isn't it?
Well, no, I'm here.
Oh, that's terrible. You got your Christmas crackers out early as well with the joke?
No, I just thought I'd help you out.
Thank you very much. And Chris, lots of people getting in touch about you and the black hole, promising they're going to throw you in it if you mention it anymore. Lots of people feel strongly about the black hole story. OK, now, remember, let me know your thoughts on all the stories we discussed. It's really, really simple to get involved. And if you want to make jokes that are even worse than Mike Parry's, very simple to do so. gbnews.com/yoursay and join in our conversation. Now, there's loads more coming up on today's show. After the break, we'll be discussing the latest news from the world of sport, including that Merseyside derby being cancelled due to Storm Darragh. I've got 2 Evertonians here. Help me out here, people. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel. You can put the kettle on. We'll see you soon.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Darragh continues to bring some very disruptive and perhaps damaging weather in places as we head through the rest of Saturday and into the start of Sunday. It continues to sink its way south and eastwards through the rest of the day, but it's on this western flank that we'll see those strongest winds with a real squeeze in those isobars through the rest of today. We've got amber, wind and rain warnings in force across western areas. We could see gusts here of 60 to 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour at the coast, and also some heavy rain too across northern and eastern parts of England and southern parts of Wales, so we could see some localised flooding in places. Temperatures will be round about average for the time of year, but with that very brisk northerly wind, it'll be feeling much colder than those temperatures are stating. As we then go into Saturday evening, the outbreaks of heavy rain do continue. Across parts of Scotland, we could see this rain turning to sleet and snow, particularly over any high ground, and across eastern areas it could be quite persistent in places. Across Northern Ireland, a little bit brighter to end the day, some clear spells overnight, although still some blustery showers pushing in from the north. Across much of England and Wales, though, a cloudy end to the day, plenty of outbreaks of rain around, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and southern parts of Wales too. Through the rest of Saturday evening, continuing to see those strong winds across western areas, although them just down a touch compared to what we saw on Saturday morning, but continuing to see outbreaks of heavy rain across eastern parts of England, so adding to some localised flooding in places here. Temperatures overnight will be a little bit above average, staying above zero with those brisk northerly winds, but it will be feeling really chilly to start the day on Sunday morning, particularly where you're exposed to that northerly wind. A damp start to the day across eastern parts of England, outbreaks of rain continuing to push their way south and eastwards, although perhaps becoming persistent at times. But across western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, those winds really starting to ease down, and we might even see some sunshine through the afternoon, so feeling a bit more pleasant here. Temperatures will still be around average for the time of year, but it will be feeling really quite chilly under that cloud in that northerly wind.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Happy Saturday. Thank you for joining me. Really appreciating your company. I hope you're having a lovely Saturday afternoon and snuggled on a sofa rather than going out in the storm. You don't want to be doing that. Now, please do get in touch about everything we're talking about today, because you've got to save me from two Evertonians, to be honest with you. And they are agreeing on everything. It's really simple to get in touch. gbnews.com/yoursay and join in. And we're also on socials at GB News as well. So you can say what you want. You can mention black holes. I think Chris has gone there. Not literally, although several of you are offering to help him in that direction. And Mike's talking about how he's not going to get it up. Your Christmas tree.
Well, thank you.
Can I say that? Can I say that? Is banter allowed? Any case, we are now going to talk about the honours. That's Dame Dawn out the window, isn't it, for a start? We are going to... The 6 honours are being removed. Well, 6 names are having their honours removed from the official register, including Tory peer Lord Rami Ranger. The Conservative donor was accused of harassing a journalist and making a series of derogatory comments on social media. Lots of people do that. Meanwhile, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, just in case you'd forgotten who he was, is reportedly in line for a knighthood for his public and political service after winning historic 3rd time as that London Mayor, indeed. And today there's a story about a rise Sir David Beckham. He has put his foot in it a bit, though, hasn't he? But is it OK to strip people of their honours? Do you think Sadiq Khan deserves an honour? And is it right that anyone gets honours full stop? Shouldn't we just scrap the whole system? Chris, I'm going to come to you. Don't mention black hole, right? You've been there once. I think you got away with it. No, he didn't. Honours, I mean, it's a bit outdated now. Who cares?
No, look, these people that receive these honours have either done a large contribution to society or should be recognised for their service to the public and the community.
Or bung someone a favour.
Well, you know, I think most of the people that receive them are distinguished and they're honoured by society, and that obviously elevates them to a position where they need to be, you know, honourable, I suppose. And at the end of the day, when we're talking about stripping honours, we've seen that if you are dishonourable, then you're going to have them removed.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, just Sadiq Khan, do you think he deserves a knighthood?
Well, he's a winner, 3-time winner of 3 elections in a row, done 20 years of service, record council house building. I think, yeah, he deserves it.
OK, interesting.
Yeah.
Honours?
Well, I want David Beckham to get a knighthood, and it looks like some reports we're reading this morning, it's not going to happen on the New Year's honours list, but I was actually there at Old Trafford when he scored that magnificent free kick that got us through to the World Cup finals against Greece in Germany, OK? And that moment alone, for me, makes him huge. I mean, if you travel around the world, you go to Singapore, you go to Melbourne, you see huge pictures on billboards of Beckham advertising everything. I think he's a fantastic advert for our country. He's very successful, very wealthy. His wife is equally as prominent in the world of fashion around the world. So I think they're great ambassadors, and I want him to become a Knight of the Realm. Now, I know he's had a couple of problems in the past. Allegedly, he had a complicated tax investment, which a lot of people have.
Nothing illegal, but it's all been sorted out.
Exactly. But then again, unfortunately, he was caught on a video or something, reacting to an occasion when he didn't get an honour, which didn't go down too well. But, you know, people get disappointed, that's gone away. I can't understand how he's not automatically getting one when we know he goes to Highgrove, which is the King's country estate, and gets jars of honey from the King, from the bees that the King has there. I can't believe if you're that close to the King that you're exchanging jars of honey, you're not going to get an honour.
They have bonded over their love of beekeeping. And the reason it's in the news again is that because obviously David Beckham joined King Charles and Queen Camilla for that banquet to mark the state visit of the Emir of Qatar.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I said, but instead of David Beckham, it's going to be Gareth Southgate, supposedly.
Yeah.
Chris, reaction?
Look,
your face said it all pretty much. It was like black hole shaped.
I believe people should be, you know, recognised for their achievements. And David Beckham, throughout his distinguished career, has, you know, inspired many kids to, you know, working class kids who, you know, may not look at any other role models because they don't come to their schools. And that man put in years and decades of hard work and effort. And, you know, he's a humble man. He's achieved well. His wife is equally distinguished as well. And, you know, as Mike's pointed out, he's put England on the map around the world, and for people to look at a role model, he seems like a natural candidate.
Yeah, I totally agree. And can I just add to that on Southgate? I think it's a disgrace that we're going to give a knighthood to a loser. Yeah. Now, people say to me, oh, what do you mean? He got us to 2 finals. You know, yes, he did, 2 European finals. He didn't win one. No. Now, what about the what about the Olympic champions? What's the lady's name?
Tanni Grey-Thompson.
Thank you very much. You know, a record-winning para-Olympic athlete. What about Sir Chris and his bike? You know, he's just been diagnosed with cancer. 6 gold medals, OK? Now, surely, and they both, you know, she's got a damehood, he's got a knighthood. Surely they're going to say, well, what's the distinction between somebody who nearly was a winner and somebody who was a winner? I think it's an absolute disgrace that Gareth Southgate's going to get a knighthood, and Sir Ralph Ramsey got a knighthood because he won the World Cup. So Southgate's going to get one for not winning it.
He said he should have lost his opportunity for a knighthood when he missed that penalty in the Euros.
Well, exactly.
You know, that would have written him off a minute.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby Moore, I mean...
Never got a knighthood.
Never got anything.
Yeah.
But lots of people on... Keep the views coming in, by the way, gbnews.com/your say, are saying Mayor of London shouldn't really simply get an award for doing his job.
I totally agree with that. I'm sorry.
I mean, we're talking about... You said it earlier, Mike. You know, you've got reward winners, and he's won 3 times. So, at the end of the day, you know, for a man of Sadiq Khan's sort of... you know, awareness of...
You were going to say the word statue, weren't you? Not a good word.
No, well, he has achieved a lot in difficult times. And, you know, he has put council house building back on the agenda.
But he hasn't built the council houses. I'm sorry, his record on building council houses, I think he's achieved 10% of his original target. I think he's done a lot of damage to London. You ask anybody who works in the night trade in London, you'll say it's very bad news because of the restrictions put on business. Also, the commerciality of London has been, in my view, destroyed by too many bus lanes, too many cycle lanes, too many restrictions. I think he's done a terrible job.
We have to move on, unfortunately. But what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Who deserves the knighthood more? Here's an interesting one for you. David Beckham or Sadiq Khan? Let me know your thoughts. Right, OK, a huge thank you to my wonderful panel today, Labour Party activist Chris Blackhole Worrell. Thank you very much, Chris. Great fun to have you on. And journalist and broadcaster, notary Mike Parry. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up after the break. We'll be discussing the latest from the world of sport, including that Merseyside derby being cancelled due to Storm Darragh. All of that, much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel, and we'll see you very soon.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
This is a topic very close to my heart. I have become fully convinced that social media, smartphones are one of the primary causes of mental health problems in children and many other serious problems beside. Lots of governments are starting to talk about this, but the Australians are well ahead in their use of legislation. What do you think about this issue?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I've got 3 young children, and I'm really concerned about... I mean, they're too young to be on social media, but I'm really concerned about what lies ahead for them. I'm not sure I support what Australia's doing, not because I don't think it's a good idea to ensure that age verification is right. I'm just not sure that the age 16 is appropriate. But that's progress. If we effectively, as I do, accept the point that we need some sort of control, then we can move to a proper debate about whether that's 16, 14, 13, whatever it may be. And, of course, there are age restrictions on things like Facebook. I think, from memory, it is 13.
Yes, but it's a tick box.
But it's a tick box, so all you can do is you can just knock. If you're 11 years old, you can just predate your date of birth by 2 years, and you can get on. I think what Australia is proposing is interesting because it will stop young people, maybe without their parents' knowledge, short-circuiting the system because they're going to be asking for proper age verification and ID. That's definitely something we should do in the UK because it's enforced in the existing law. Query, is 16 the right age, Miriam?
I completely agree with it. It's something I actually said should have been done before. And I think what is good about it is that for a long time, a lot of governments have been saying that the actual social media companies should take more responsibility, but they're not going to because it hurts their bottom line. The most voracious users are younger users. So they will pledge that, oh, I'll put the tick box in, but the kid is the one who's going to actually tick the box. So doing something like this is saying that, OK, we will put in legislation that damages your bottom line, and I think it will force the hand because they've said it's only 12 months and they will reevaluate it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, there you are. Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, we're going to talk sport, basically. So the wonderful Aidan McGee is here, looking very dashing in blue. I like you in blue.
Thanks very much. Likewise.
Thank you very much. Thank you. OK, we better stop flirting and talk sport. OK, so what's happening? I know what's not happening.
Yeah, well, I was quite surprised, actually, because, I mean, we got the call, we got the message at 8:30 this morning that the Merseyside derby, the last one scheduled to take place at Goodison Park ever, was going to be postponed. And Everton put out a tweet this morning. It was adverse weather conditions. I imagine, I'm no Simon Calder here, but it was over to the west side of the most furthest west of all the matches today in the Premier League, and I guess that made it vulnerable. They also had to make an early call as well because it was a 12:30 kick-off. They maybe had news that it was going to get worse later on, and it isn't really, Dawn, about what happens in the field of play. Most players and most pitches these days can usually handle that. It's a relatively exposed stadium because you've got gaps in a couple of the corners, which you don't have in a lot of stadiums now, especially not the new ones. But it's about access outside. Right. It's about fans travelling to and from games. It's about the pressure on public transport. Don't forget, yes, it might be a game local to Liverpool, but there are lots of people travelling to an international game like that from all over the country, sometimes even all over the world. So that's why the decision was made. I fully expected there to be further postponements, but we've seen 8 matches going ahead in the Championship. Nothing else has bitten the dust in the Premier League so far. I mean, you look at games that Aston Villa looks like it's going ahead at 3 o'clock. It's very late to postpone it now if it's going to be postponed. Brentford and Crystal Palace in London. Man United may be vulnerable, I suppose, at 5:30, but nothing as yet to say that it's not going to go ahead.
Liverpool, is it?
34 miles. 34 miles, yeah, I know.
And that's it, we've run out of time.
Oh, no.
my God, I know. It was so short and sweet. Thank you so much for coming in and talking about the weather, which is what we're going to have to do now, because it is bad out there. The storm is easing off, but it's still not great. So let's take a look at what the weather is like where you are with Ellie Glazer, I think, for you. Here she is.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Darragh continues to bring strong and blustery winds and some heavy rain that will clear its way eastwards through the rest of today. But there are still weather warnings in force as we go into the start of Sunday. That squeeze in the isobars across that western flank of that area of low pressure is what's bringing us those strong winds as we head through the rest of Sunday, with amber wind warnings in force through until Saturday evening. Winds then down a notch as we go through Saturday night into the start of Sunday, but we could still see gusts here of 50 to 60, perhaps 70 miles an hour, and plenty of heavy rain continuing across eastern parts of England, so we could see some localised flooding here. Temperatures, it will be quite a chilly night, although likely staying above zero, although feeling a very chilly and cold start to the day on Sunday with those northerly winds. Be quite a cloudy and damp start to the day across southern and eastern parts of England through Sunday morning. That rain turning persistent in places, but perhaps a bit of a brighter start across parts of southwest England and Wales. Some sunshine in places, and for Northern Ireland too, a bit of a brighter start to the day. Western parts of Scotland seeing those brighter skies as well to start on Sunday morning, but eastern Scotland continuing to stay quite cloudy with plenty of blustery showers around. These perhaps turning to sleet and snow over any high ground. That rain across eastern parts of England does continue through much of the day on Sunday, turning heavy in places and quite persistent as well. So we could see some spray on the roads, some further localised flooding through Sunday afternoon. But the further north and the further west you are, those winds gradually starting to ease and turning a bit brighter with some sunshine through the afternoon. So a bit of a more pleasant day here. Temperatures still remaining around average across the board, although feeling really quite chilly again with that northerly wind, particularly across the southeast, where those winds will still be quite strong. That rain continues across the southeast of England through Sunday evening, although gradually starts to fizzle out into the early hours of Monday morning, but plenty of clear skies across the north and the west, so a chilly start to the day on Monday. There is some sunshine on the horizon though. High pressure does start to build through next week, but that does mean some colder temperatures are on the way.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements? Or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The latest Channel 4 Dispatches documentary has revealed details about the royal family's finances, including reports that private royal estates have received millions of pounds of income from public bodies and charities.
Morning, and morning, Stephen. Absolutely, I'm not shocked either. And also, as a former butler, I was also a duchy rentee. I used to rent one of the properties, and we were always aware of the property portfolio. I don't think it's kind of a bit news thing. Obviously, part of the, if you like, the business side is these two duchies, Cornwall and Lancaster, and the late Queen obviously was the Duke as well of Lancaster, and now you've got the Prince was obviously, or the King, when he was Prince, had the duchy. And these properties, portfolios as well, I mean, obviously they make money. I mean, but they've been around for, I think they go back to George III, if not before.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Saturday the 7th. I had to check. How is it the 7th already? I have no idea. Are you ready? I'm not ready. I know you're not. But I'm glad you're keeping me company this afternoon because it's horrible out there. This is the weekend on GB News. Right, OK. A nightmare before Christmas. Red weather warnings have been issued as Storm Darragh batters parts of the UK with winds of up to 90 miles an hour. And Chancellor Rachel Reeves warns that defence spending cannot rise without making spending cuts elsewhere, as she tries to work out how she can fulfil her party's pledge to raise defence spending to 2.5% of GDP. And after it was nearly destroyed in a devastating fire 5 years ago, Notre-Dame finally reopened today following a miraculous rebuilding project. That's amazing, isn't it? 5 years. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. So thank you for your company this Saturday afternoon. I'm really enjoying all your comments. I will read out as many as I possibly can. And yeah, the weather's pretty rubbish. I'll just stay in, snuggle on the settee, have a nice cup of tea, maybe a mulled wine and a mince pie, you know, cheeky mince pie. It is nearly Christmas after all, because this show is nothing without you and your views. So let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today, or anything you want to talk about. Christmas, are you ready? Have you got a turkey yet? Have you got your baubles out? Very simple to get in touch, visiting gbnews.com/yoursay and join in our conversation. Great panel this afternoon. Now, keeping me company is political commentator Matthew Stadlen and former leader of UKIP, Henry Bolton. Thank you very much for joining me. And it's a special birthday, isn't it? Yeah, happy birthday to
75.
You. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matthew. Happy birthday to you. And it's mine coming up soon, so you can sing it back later. But before we get into today's stories, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom. It is 2 minutes past 1. Well, the top story today, Storm Darragh has now left over 40,000 homes without power in Wales, with engineers working to restore supplies as fast as possible, they say. The storm, which hit the UK overnight, has already brought heavy rain and winds, the highest recorded, now 93 miles an hour, causing widespread disruption. Counties across South and North West Wales have been hardest hit, with some areas facing severe weather conditions, including flooding. Well, while the Met Office has now lifted its rare red warning, yellow and amber alerts are still in place across affected regions. And the storm is also bringing travel chaos across the country, with rail services disrupted, bridges and roads closed in many areas. And passengers at some of the UK's busiest airports have also described terrifying descents and harrowing landings as air traffic restrictions are in place. Our Scotland reporter Tony Maguire is at Glasgow Airport for us today.
As Storm Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the country, Scotland has made it through Friday night relatively unscathed. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, well, they've got flood warnings for essentially all parts of the country, but only 2 have been escalated to flood alerts, and that is in Tayside as well as South Ayrshire. That amber warning that stretches across the northwest of England, well, that also leaks into Dumfries and Galloway, with residents there told to stay inside until the bad weather dies off.
Next, let's bring you an update on the situation in The Hague, where an explosion has destroyed an apartment complex there, injuring multiple people. Residents say they were woken by loud bangs and sounds of screaming before dawn, with one woman claiming she thought that blast could have been caused by an earthquake. Part of the building collapsed and a fire broke out, trapping residents inside. 4 people have been rescued so far and taken to hospital, but authorities fear others may still be trapped. Dutch officials have now deployed specialist search rescue teams with dogs to help locate survivors. They're also appealing for witnesses after a car was seen speeding away from the scene. Here, a 4-year-old boy has died after being hit by a bus in the West Midlands. Police say the accident happened on Tipton High Street just before 5 o'clock on Friday evening, and the driver is assisting with inquiries. Officers are appealing for dashcam footage to help piece together just what happened. West Midlands Police say their thoughts are with the boy's family. Prince William is set to meet Donald Trump today in Paris ahead of Notre-Dame Cathedral's grand reopening ceremony. The Prince of Wales will discuss the UK-US special relationship with the President-elect and meet the outgoing First Lady Jill Biden, who's also in attendance. That ceremony, being hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, features the opening of the cathedral's huge doors and reawakening of its organ. It's also Prince William's first visit to Paris since 2017. Protesters are set to gather outside Downing Street this afternoon, demanding de-escalation between Russia and the West. The Stop the War coalition and Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament have declared today an emergency day of action with local events across the UK. Activists are urging world leaders to withdraw missiles from Ukraine and avoid what they call the nuclear brink. More than 1 million children are being pushed into poverty because of high housing costs, according to a new report out today. The Resolution Foundation says 27% of children in poverty wouldn't be below the poverty line if housing were more affordable. Those in private rentals are hit the hardest. The charity is calling on the government to make tackling housing costs a key focus of its child poverty strategy. The report also highlights the urgent need for action as families struggle to make ends meet. And the countdown to Christmas begins in earnest today. A survey shows that today, the 7th of December, is the UK's most popular day to put up a Christmas tree, with nearly a third of households getting festive. The second and third Saturdays in December follow as top choices, but some get a head start decorating as early as November, and a rare few wait until Christmas Eve, would you believe, snapping up heavily discounted trees. Well, I wonder quite what Dawn's agenda is in terms of setting up decorations. Let's find out. Head straight back to Dawn right now.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much. Full confession, I have actually had my Christmas tree up for nearly a month already. It looks lovely though. Come on, it's so miserable. It's sitting there sparkling in the corner. It's
There's always a big difficulty with Christmas trees though, because if you go too early, they dry out.
Yeah, but it's not double full confession. It's not actually a posh real one.
Oh.
No. It's one that's been, what's the word? Upcycled. It was dragged out of the loft like it. Plastic. All right, plastic. Thank you very much. I'm recycling it. OK, right, OK, let's get into today's story. It's not all about Christmas. Actually, most of it is, though. Our top story this afternoon is a nightmare before Christmas. Storm Darragh has battered parts of the UK with winds of up to 90 miles an hour. Around 3 million people have been urged to stay indoors after the Met Office issued a rare red weather warning in parts of Wales and the southwest of England. Although this has now ended, but the repercussions are going to go on, you know that. Britons are now braced for a weekend of chaos with delayed flights, cancelled trains and even postponed sports fixtures, with the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool called off due to safety concerns. Joining me now is my favourite ever travel correspondent, Simon Calder, who's at Waterloo Station. Hello, Simon. How bad is it out there today?
Oh, Dawn, lovely to see you. Happy birthday to Matthew. And I'm afraid it's absolutely dismal. So here at London Waterloo, one of the 3 busiest stations in the country, if you were hoping, for instance, to get to Portsmouth, well, good luck with that. I think the 11:30 train has yet to leave. We've got a problem which is going actually to multiply right across the UK, and this is fallen trees. So while things began OK this morning here at London Waterloo, apart from problems, cancelled trains to and from Salisbury and Exeter, it's absolutely degenerated since then. The signs over to my right are saying major disruption on all the main lines. And what's happening at Waterloo is, I'm afraid, relatively mild compared with London Paddington, which, as you know, is the hub for the west of England and South Wales. Well, nothing running west of Cardiff to Swansea and Carmarthen for the rest of the day. Nothing going west of Plymouth towards Penzance. And many other lines experiencing problems. All the Devon and Cornwall branch lines are also closed. Elsewhere, well, goodness me, you pick a part of the country and I can find some disruption. North Wales, the coastal line going from Chester to Holyhead is closed. Many other Transport for Wales services affected. In Scotland, speed restrictions are the key problem on the railway. And wherever you are, if you're on a train, it's probably going quite slowly in case of debris. But that, of course, increases the time taken for journeys, and that unravels the whole schedules. And I just saw your lovely picture of the water. We've done trains. Can we do boats now?
Take it away.
OK, so ferries. Almost nothing going across the Irish Sea that I can see. They tried to sail from Cairnryan to Belfast earlier today on one of the superfast ferries. That was last seen, I think, going round in circles in Belfast Loch. Not sure when it actually managed to dock because of the bad weather. Everything else to and from Cairnryan and Scotland across the Irish Sea cancelled. Same goes for Holyhead. So even if you could get a train there, which you can't, then you wouldn't have a ferry to Dublin. Also, Fishguard to Rosslare and Pembroke to Rosslare, they're all cancelled for the rest of the day. And in Scotland, those Caledonian McBrain ferries, well, they often do their best, but I'm afraid most of those are defeated, in particular links to Arran to Islay, and this afternoon and evening sailings between Stornoway and Ullapool are also axed.
Is it worth trying to fly anywhere at the moment? I mean, or are we really lumbered? No, OK.
I wouldn't, no. Well, let me tell you what's happening on the flights. It's been even more exciting. Oh, nothing in and out of George Best Belfast City in Northern Ireland. We've seen at Heathrow a lot of problems, lots of so-called go-arounds, where the pilots will try and land and then think, actually, no, we're going to go and have another go. Or indeed, they're going to divert. And we've had Air Canada from Calgary, American Airlines from Dallas, Delta Airlines from Atlanta. They thought they were going to Heathrow, all those pilots and passengers. Instead, they are in Brussels, which is a lovely place to be, but not where they intended to be. Still, they're in a better position than Abu Dhabi passengers on Etihad trying to get to Manchester this morning. They spent an hour flying around in circles before the pilot said, right, can't land there. We're off to Frankfurt in Germany. Guten Morgen.
Oh, dear. But some of those planes must have actually flown through the storm to get to just try and land in this country, surely?
Well, look, no, aviation is, as you know, formidably safe. And if you're at 30, 40,000 feet, then actually you haven't really got any problems. You're probably going to get here in about 12 minutes flat from the US because the tailwinds are so strong. But once you do get here, that's when the problems arise. And of course, landing at Heathrow, busiest two-runway airport in the world, is always an exciting time. And well, not everybody got in, and that's why lots of people are feeling slightly fed up because they're perhaps in Belgium or in Germany rather than being where they wanted to be in the UK.
Thank you very much, Simon. I love you. And there's a reason you cycle everywhere, isn't there? That's our travel correspondent at The Independent, Simon Corder. Thank you very much. OK, now we'll move on, shall we? Let's talk about Rachel Reeves, because somebody has to. She claims that she cannot raise defence spending without making spending cuts elsewhere, as she prepares to lay out a timetable for achieving her party's goal of making defence spending up to 2.5% of GDP at some point. She declined to say whether she thought the target would be met by the end of the decade, and warned that any extra cash for the military would have to come from the same spending envelope as other priorities. But should defence be a priority? I mean, it's not a very safe place to be at the moment, Henry Bolton. I mean, Henry, you've served in the military. Surely defence now does need some investment.
Well, let's be clear, 2.5% would not be an increase in terms of providing the military with any additional capability. It would be simply marking time. And marking time in armed forces that have been neglected since the 1990s, since probably about 1990 itself.
You know, the recruitment has been neglected, the retention has been and conditions have been neglected, equipment programmes have been neglected, tactical doctrine's been neglected, units have been amalgamated, and in doing so we have lost capability. And it's all very well and good saying a warship or an aircraft has now sort of the capability of, you know, 200 Lancaster bombers or something in World War II, but one aircraft can only be in one place at one time, the same with a warship, the same with an armoured fighting vehicle and so on. No, I mean, we are living in very dangerous times, and I'm of the opinion that we need to provide Ukraine with a war-winning advantage. That's a different topic.
Yep.
The point is that we are living through, although people in this country are isolated largely from it, we are living through the biggest conflict that Europe has seen since World War II, and many of its elements bear some very stark similarities to what Germany was doing in Czechoslovakia and so on in the 1930s. Now, we can say, OK, look, we hope for the best and we're going to not bother about defence, or we can say the worst may happen. And if we're not prepared for that, then we are going to be in a very, very difficult place indeed. And we know that the Russians have been probing our undersea architecture and infrastructure. We know that they've been conducting cyber attacks against the UK. We know that they've been involved in cutting communications links between Finland and Germany and so on, and between Sweden, suspected between Sweden and Finland. There's a whole lot going on here, and the Russians have a concept that they don't have limited war. That does not exist in their tactical doctrine. Their tactical doctrine, which has been in existence since World War II, is whole-of-state war. You don't have expeditionary wars like we had in Afghanistan or wherever, that sort of thing. It doesn't exist in Russian tactical doctrine. It is the whole-state diplomacy, economy, industry, society, healthcare. The whole thing is figured into the architecture, which means that we are sitting here thinking we're not at war with Russia. Russia sees itself at war with us. It's a matter of escalation into a more military domain. So we need to rearm and re-equip. Anything else is negligent to the point of stupidity.
Matthew, I mean, the money has to come from somewhere. I mean, what do we sacrifice? The NHS, education, crime?
I'd say my first point before engaging with Henry on the military side of things is that I'm feeling a bit pessimistic. I don't know about you guys at home, but a bit pessimistic about our country at the moment. Perhaps naively, I thought that we'd have a new government after 14 years of the Conservatives and we feel a bit of a bounce. We feel a bit happier about life, a bit of enthusiasm.
Yeah, right.
That's not happened so far. And I think that there is... Someone said to me quite recently, and this was an echo of something I also read in the newspaper, and it's stuck with me ever since, that we are essentially declining as a country. And so if you look back to previous prime ministers, Tony Blair I'm thinking of, for example, and arguably Gordon Brown at the start, they were divvying up the proceeds of growth, the proceeds of a growing economy. You could say the same with the John Major government as well, because they left a pretty good economic legacy for New Labour, even though public services were in a mess. Now, if you're prime minister, there's an extent to which you are managing the decline of this country. And this is a perfect example. I absolutely think that in an ideal world, we should be investing far more heavily in our defence, because, as Henry says, we are in very dangerous times. Although when you say if the worst happens, that's nuclear Armageddon, isn't it? So in that sense, whether we spend a bit more on our armed forces probably won't make that much of a difference. The question is, as you posed from the outset, where does that come from? We saw the reaction to Rachel Reeves's budget. Horror, wasn't it, amongst some, that she was raising taxes?
Pretty much amongst everybody, to be honest.
And so then where does the money come from? It doesn't come from raising more taxes if people aren't going to tolerate that. Should it come from education? Should it come from the care system? Should it come from the NHS specifically? These are really challenging questions.
Unusually, I agree with Matthew on these points.
I knew you would.
But and not just because it's his birthday. The point is, it's about priorities. There is no point in having a well-functioning NHS if you are at well, you need it. But there are certain things in society that have to take a back seat if you find yourself...
You really are worried about this, aren't you?
I am seriously worried. I'm far more worried than most people. And what I want to avoid... People call me a warmonger. I actually want to avoid it. Nobody, literally, can lecture me about the horrors of war. I've seen it. I've experienced it. And I don't want to see it, what's happening in Ukraine, expand, escalate, or a peace enforced on the situation which leads us to a far, far greater conflict down the road. People do not understand Russia. I do. I've been there, I've worked with the generals, I've worked with the ministers, I've trained with their special forces, believe it or not, officially.
Yeah.
You know, so I had that. I've not been doing dodgy stuff.
Yeah.
So I am seriously concerned, and I don't think that the British establishment, I mean government and civil service, have yet understood the threat. And Admiral Radakin, the Chief of the Defence Staff, is trying to raise the alarm. The former Chief of the General Staff tried to do the same. We need to start listening and taking action. Difficult choices.
But where does... Exactly, it's a very difficult... Where does the money come from? I mean, we all know about the black hole. It's been mentioned several times, hasn't it? What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. How important is defence to you? Where does that money come from? For all the best analysis on that story, please do go to our website, which is at gbnews.com. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. As Sir Keir Starmer claims that changing Britain will require nothing less than the complete rewiring of the British state. We'll be debating whether part of that is reforming the civil service, you know, the blob, as we call them. Or there much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you soon.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, our next guests have been working closely with celebrities and MPs to help clean up our planet.
Very important. Think Ocean was founded in 2021 with two main goals. One, educating the next generation to make sure that they know when they're growing up that naturally we have to take care of the planet and cleaning pollution that's already in the environment.
Well, joining us now to tell us more is Think Ocean's founder, Hugo Valdez-Vera, and the co-founder, Nolene Mariappan. Really good to see you both this morning. So, Nolene, let's start with you. What is Think Ocean, and why did you want to start this back in 2021?
Yes, so Hugo had actually been working on the environment and climate action for quite a long time. When he moved to the UK, he realised that there was a growing problem with plastic pollution and that more needed to be done because people weren't actually seeing the link between plastic, the impact on the environment and climate change. So he founded the organisation and I joined him with three goals, really. Education, looking at technology to scale solutions, and looking at how we develop more circular economy programmes. So actually looking at reusing, recycling, actually creating local economies from what people would consider waste.
Hugo, just how bad is plastic pollution around the world, and especially here in the UK?
Well, it is bad, but we don't know the extent of how bad it is. You know, this is not much interest from the bigger players or, you know, some government for us to know every detail of the pollution. So if we know that is from 1 to 10 is 2, probably it's about 6.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. A very special birthday edition of The Weekend because it's Matthew Stadler is one of my panellists. It's his birthday today.
And I'm really quite unwell.
Yeah.
However,
Lots of people think you're unwell permanently, to be honest with you, Matthew, but no, he is genuinely unwell
I'm
today.
cancelling my birthday dinner tonight, but I couldn't cancel you, Dawn.
I know. See, it's wonderful. And Henry Bolton as well, who also hasn't cancelled me, so I'm having a rather lovely time here. So thank you for joining us. I hope you're having a lovely Saturday afternoon now. And please do join in with us by getting involved at home, gbnews.com/your say. I know lots of you have done, and I promise I'm going to read out as many as I possibly can, but we've got such a packed show, I do need to crack on a bit. So it's just, as I said, gbnews.com/your say. But join in and I will read them out. OK. Now, let's talk about Keir Starmer. I'm not going to call him sir. Keir Starmer launched his plan for change this week. He declared that changing Britain, he likes that word, doesn't he, will require nothing less than the complete rewiring of the British state. In many people's minds, this will include reforming the civil service. But can the Prime Minister succeed where so many of his predecessors have fouled? OK, and Matthew, before you fall off your perch by being poorly there, we're going to come to you first on this one. I mean, Starmer hasn't exactly been complimentary, has he, about the... he said that the civil service are in tepid baths of managed decline.
So I've been a bit pessimistic so far on the show, particularly for a birthday.
That's not like you. You're normally so up and bubbly and full of the joys of December.
I think it's worth... I don't think Labour have got off to the best start. Who does? That's obviously not helped by a largely hostile media who want them to trip up. I want our country to do well. I want this Labour government to succeed. But I think it's worth just resetting on Starmer momentarily. I've never met the man, ever. I've met some former Prime Ministers. I've never met Starmer, but I do know one of his closest friends. And I think he comes from a good place. He gets a fearful bashing in the media, but perhaps particularly and unsurprisingly on social media. He may not be brilliant at politics, although he took Labour from the Corbyn years to a massive landslide victory. He may not be instinctual about some areas of politics. He may have got some of his policies wrong. I think he has since the election. But I think he comes, broadly speaking, from a good place. I don't think he is a bad guy. And that might not be much comfort to some at home. But I thought I'd get that out there from the start. Now, on the issue of the reset, I mean, did anyone really notice the reset? That's an example to me. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention this week, but that's an example to me of where number 10 isn't functioning as well as it should be, as well as perhaps it could be.
Resetting after 5.5 months.
So Chris Woolmould, who is now the new head of the civil service, that Starmer appointment, I thought that was a shaky appointment because if you think about some of the things that he said at the time of the outbreak, roughly around then of the pandemic, if you think about his proximity, not culpability in terms of original responsibility, but his proximity to that blood scandal, the poison blood scandal, there are certainly questions to be asked about Starmer's judgment on that. On the civil service, I wonder whether this is an attempt by Starmer, yes, to deal with what he sees as a civil service that doesn't function as well as it could do. But is it also an attempt by Starmer to curry some sort of favour with, for example, the Daily Mail, who've been, to use Dawn's word earlier, been calling the civil service the blob for I don't know how long? Is this his way of trying to say, actually, I'm not this crazy lefty loony that you see me as?
Interesting. OK, what do you make of that, Henry?
I think that is interesting, and I think it may well be that. I think the number 10... and Keir Starmer, they're out of their depth at the moment. They are struggling. They don't know really how to deal with I think the unpopularity thing has taken Starmer rather by surprise. I suspect... again, I've never met the man, but I don't think he's a bad person. I don't agree with his politics, but that's something different. And I don't think he's a good leader, and I don't think he's leading the nation or instilling confidence in the nation.
On the leadership, Henry, just to interrupt very quickly, I'm fascinated by your view on this, given that you've had military leadership roles in the past. If we were booming, if things were rosy and sunny, and we were on the sunlit uplands that we were promised by the Brexiteers, of course, we're nowhere near those uplands. But if
let's not talk about Brexit.
If we were in a good state, let's say we were in the late 1990s under Blair, it might not matter, perhaps, as much that Starmer doesn't have charisma. If things are seeming to go into reverse, if, as I said earlier, he's managing the decline of this country, then perhaps a lack of charisma does matter.
I think you're right. I mean, if everything was fine and dandy and running itself smoothly, then, you know, you could have a monkey in there and actually people would still be feeling good. His job, though, whether he likes it or whether it doesn't, however uncomfortable it is for him, is to take a country that has got problems, we've talked about defence, in policing, in healthcare, in education, in just about every walk of life. And he has got to take that and he's got to build in the nation confidence and optimism in all of those services. To know, people need to know or feel that those things are going in the right direction. At the moment, they don't.
Even if they're not going in the right direction?
No, well, it's his job to turn that around. And what I think he's struggling with that. I think he is. That's why we keep hearing change. He's still not told us exactly what change he wants to deliver or he thinks the country needs. But I think what he's doing now, you're partly right, is he is now trying to divert attention. He's trying to partly say, look, actually, we're dealing with the blob. It's also doffing the cap to the male, but it's also a way of kind of getting himself a little bit off the hook. He's got somebody else to blame. And I think...
Do you think he genuinely believes it, though, as well, having experienced government for now 5 or 6 months? Do you think he's actually been surprised by it?
It was a job he wanted. I mean, it isn't a job that suddenly go, oh, my God, you want me to be Prime Minister? What a shock.
And I think he really wanted it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think he is partly just surprised. And I think there are other politicians and other political parties who, if they suddenly found themselves in power, would be equally surprised because they have not thought through their policies. One of the things that I think has come across with this government is that they had 1 or 2 things that they were already determined that they were going to do, but didn't actually have a plan for addressing all of these things that the Prime Minister says he wants to address. And
on the civil service itself, Henry, do you think that the issue there is that people are not working hard enough or that they're deliberately trying to obstruct the government? Because I find that unlikely. Or do you think it is that we are entrenched in certain laws, some of which I might support, some of which you might support, we might disagree on some of them, and that the functionality of state is far slower than politicians themselves when they actually experience it would like
that's absolutely the case, and I've experienced that, and that change since Tony Blair's time. I've seen that change, that becoming more and more of a problem, both the legal sort of problems to be overcome, but also the institutional working methodologies. I've seen sort of open plan offices being created in the Foreign Office, then to hot desking, and now to working from home and flexi hours. Yep. There's a whole raft of problems that undermine efficiency. I think you're right.
Run out of time on that one. Thank you very much. I'm Dawn Newsom. This is GBNews. What do you think? Is it a blob? Who's running the country? Is it the civil service or is it the government? After the break, we'll be discussing a new nightclub which has introduced a strict rule that your smartphone camera must be covered with a sticker. Intriguing one. But first, let's get the news headlines with Sam Francis.
1:32 and the top story from the newsroom this hour. Well, Storm Darragh has left over 40,000 homes without power in Wales, with engineers there working to restore supplies as fast as possible, they say. The storm, which hit the UK overnight, has brought heavy rain and winds of up to 93 miles an hour, causing widespread disruption. Counties across South and North West Wales have been hit hardest, with some areas facing severe weather conditions, including flooding. Well, while the Met Office has now lifted its rare red warning, yellow and amber alerts are still in place across affected regions. And the storm continues to bring travel chaos across much of the country, with rail services disrupted, bridges and some roads closed. And passengers at some of the UK's biggest airports have also described terrifying descents and harrowing landings as air traffic restrictions are in place. Our Scotland reporter Tony Maguire is at Glasgow Airport for us.
As Storm Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the country, Scotland has made it through Friday night relatively unscathed. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, well, they've got flood warnings for essentially all parts of the country, but only 2 have been escalated to flood alerts, and that is in Tayside as well as South Ayrshire. That amber warning that stretches across the northwest of England, well, that also leaks into Dumfries and Galloway, with residents there told to stay inside until the bad weather dies off.
And staying with the Storm Darragh, unfortunately, some breaking news from Lancashire to bring you that an investigation is now underway there after a man died when a tree fell on him during the high winds of Storm Darragh. He was driving a van down a dual carriageway when the incident happened. Emergency services called to the scene at around 9 o'clock this morning, near to Lancashire Police headquarters where it took place. He was sadly pronounced dead at the scene, and we're hearing that his family have now been informed and are being supported by specially trained officers. In other news today, an explosion has destroyed an apartment complex in The Hague, injuring multiple people, according to reports. Residents say they were woken by a loud bang and screams before dawn, with one woman claiming she thought the blast could have been caused by an earthquake. Part of the building collapsed and a fire broke out, trapping residents inside. So far, we're hearing that 4 people have been rescued and taken to hospital, but authorities say others may still be trapped. Dutch officials have deployed a specialised search and rescue team and dogs to help locate survivors, and several ambulances are waiting on scene. There are also calls for witnesses after a car was seen speeding away from the scene. And Prince William is set to meet Donald Trump today in Paris ahead of Notre-Dame Cathedral's grand reopening ceremony. The Prince of Wales will discuss the UK-US special relationship with the President-elect and meet the outgoing First Lady Jill Biden. The ceremony, being hosted by the President of France, features the opening of the cathedral's huge doors and reawakening of its grand organ and the first Mass since its restoration. It's also Prince William's first visit to Paris since 2017. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you at 2 o'clock for a full roundup. Now, though, back to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, remember to let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're talking about today. And so many of you getting in touch. I am going to go through them. I absolutely faithfully promise. It's just a constant stream of them at the moment. But keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say is your way to join in the conversation and have a chat about whatever you want to chat about. Now, there's loads more coming up in today's show. We're actually going nightclubbing. Well, it's Christmas, why wouldn't we? But we're going to a club that's introduced a strict rule that you might be intrigued to discover more about. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and you're with GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you soon.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Darragh continues to bring some very disruptive and perhaps damaging weather in places as we head through the rest of Saturday and into the start of Sunday. It continues to sink its way south and eastwards through the rest of the day, but it's on this western flank that we'll see those strongest winds with a real squeeze in those isobars through the rest of today. We've got amber wind and rain warnings in force across western areas. We could see gusts here of 60 to 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour at the coast, and also some heavy rain too across northern and eastern parts of England and southern parts of Wales, so we could see some localised flooding in places. Temperatures will be round about average for the time of year, but with that very brisk northerly wind, it'll be feeling much colder than those temperatures are stating. As we then go into Saturday evening, the outbreaks of heavy rain do continue. Across parts of Scotland, we could see this rain turning to sleet and snow, particularly over any high ground, and across eastern areas it could be quite persistent in places. Across Northern Ireland, a little bit brighter to end the day, some clear spells overnight, although still some blustery showers pushing in from the north. Across much of England and Wales, though, a cloudy end to the day, plenty of outbreaks of rain around, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and southern parts of Wales too. Through the rest of Saturday evening, continuing to see those strong winds across western areas, although them just down a touch compared to what we saw on Saturday morning, but continuing to see outbreaks of heavy rain across eastern parts of England, so adding to some localised flooding in places here. Temperatures overnight will be a little bit above average, staying above zero with those brisk northerly winds, but it will be feeling really chilly to start the day on Sunday morning, particularly where you're exposed to that northerly wind. A damp start to the day across eastern parts of England, outbreaks of rain continuing to push their way south and eastwards, although perhaps becoming persistent at times. But across western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, those winds really starting to ease down, and we might even see some sunshine through the afternoon, so feeling a bit more pleasant here. Temperatures will still be around average for the time of year, but it will be feeling really quite chilly under that cloud in that northerly wind.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Jordan Easton, this is GB News. You fancy coming clubbing with me? It's Christmas, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? I mean, come on, let's go and have a party. But this is...
you'd be really good at a club.
Thank you very much, Matthew Stadlen, who's still here. And it's his birthday, so we're going to let him talk, aren't we? But not for now, because we are going to go, as I said, clubbing. A new nightclub in Manchester called Amber's is turning heads with its bold move to ban... Can you guess? Can you guess what they're banning? Yes, smartphones on the dance floor. They're not banning the phones wholesale, but what they're doing is they're asking you to put stickers over your camera lenses because clubbers are being urged to live in the moment. You know, everyone's got their phone out. You go to a concert and no one's actually in the moment. They're all filming it, aren't they? But the policy in this club has sparked fierce debate. So is this the future of clubbing? I mean... Do you agree with it? I think it's actually a pretty good idea, to be honest with you. So let's have a chat with a nighttime economy advisor for Greater Manchester. What a job. Sasha Lord. Sasha, thank you very much for joining me. I actually think this is a great idea when you go in clubbing. Why are you filming it all the time? Just be in the moment. What do you make of this?
Dawn, I totally agree. This is something I really, really welcome. And they've taken inspiration from Berlin, actually, which is the global capital of nightlife. Most nightclubs there, you walk in, you can have your phone, you can still text your mates and call the taxi at the end of it, but they just pop a sticker on the back because they realised the atmosphere on the dance floor for the last few years has been dying. And I saw a video, and it went viral, actually. I saw a video of a nightclub opening in the United Emirates only a few weeks ago. They had Calvin Harris DJing. They must have paid him £1.2 million, and no one was dancing. It was a sea of phones with the lights on. And fair play to these guys. They want to bring the energy back to the dance floor. And this is the right way of doing it.
But how, the thing is, I mean, you know, how do you enforce it, right? It's a busy club, especially if you've got a big-name DJ like that. How do you enforce it? I mean, you can hand stickers out, but how do you make sure people put them over their phones?
You can, well, so it's been open a couple of nights and everybody has obeyed by the rules so far. And I think it's down to self-policing. You know, if you're sat in a cinema and someone stands up and puts the phone on with a light on it, straight away you're going to say to that person, you know, what are you doing? Sit down, turn your phone off. So I think that's it. And this is the unique selling point. People are going there so they can let their hair down. They can enjoy themselves on the dance floor. So I think if someone does start filming, then they'll call it out.
Have you had any kickback against it? Are people going, no, I'm not doing it? I mean, are people disagreeing with this?
The vast majority of people I'm seeing on social media who are talking about it have been really positive about it. Obviously, you're always going to get the 10% of the naysayers or the trolls. But no, this is great. And there are other clubs in the UK that do this. Fabric in London, for example, that's probably one of the best clubs in the country. They do it. And it's, you know, let's get the energy back to the dance floor. It's about time.
OK, but the thing is, we do live in, I don't do it personally, obviously I'm slightly too old, but we do live in the TikTok generation, where if you're not filming it and making a TikTok video out of it, it's not actually happening. So, I mean, that must be a big issue for certainly some younger clubbers who are going, no, I've got to put it on TikTok, otherwise people won't believe I'm watching Calvin Harris.
You know, you're quite right. And social media has a big say in this, a big part in it. Social media, not just TikTok, Instagram as well. You know, they're really affecting nightlife at the moment. You know, no one wants a picture of like when I used to go clubbing, and in those days you'd finish at 2 in the morning and get a kebab and you might be a bit worse for wear. You don't want that picture anymore on Instagram. It's not a cool look. And I was at an event last year where the atmosphere was really, really flat until 2 a.m. in the morning when the main headliner came on. And all these phones came out and people just filmed for 20 minutes and then actually left. They weren't there for the performance. They were there to say to friends, oh, look, this is me. I'm at this event and this is the DJ. So we really need to start to get back to basics. And the outlook for nightclubs, I'll be honest, is not pretty at the moment.
Yeah. I was just looking at some of the statistics. I mean, you mentioned nightclub premises in Great Britain, end of June 2020 to 2024, have gone from 1,200 down to 700.
We've lost 37% since COVID. 7 out of 10 are barely breaking even or operating at a loss at the moment. So I think this is a good idea. I think let's get the nightclub back where people can just enjoy themselves without the worry of going viral on a silly video and just let your hair down.
I'm with you on that one. We're having a night out very soon, and I probably want your job as well. That's Nighttime Economy Advisor for Greater Manchester, Sasha Lord. Thank you very much for joining me, Sasha. OK, well, I still have Matt and Henry with me here. Who's the biggest clubber I used to, then?
I used to be quite a big clubber. But I'm now 45, Dawn, so those days are
You've only just... Well, you've only just edged into 45 today.
The only issue I have with this idea of banning things in clubs, and I mean, there are other environments as well, is that, like, should you be having to force people to have fun? And also, by the way, having mobile phones in those environments would discourage antisocial and potentially criminal behaviour.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Drink spiking and something, you might catch something on your phone. Oh, fair point. I'll trust him to bring it down a bit, getting ready to go there.
Not being that optimistic.
What about you, Henry? Bit of a raver in the day?
No, I can't dance. I mean, you know...
Not can I, that doesn't matter.
But, up until fairly recently, I was going to clubs in London. And there you go. Dark horse, you
not
see.
The military clubs, darling.
No,
not
well, those clubs as well. But look, I think that we have just generally. I think this is. I don't have strong opinions about it, but I think this is a good idea overall. I think phones should be banned from schools, certainly in the classroom. I think there's all sorts. I think as a society, particularly younger people, God knows, I'm 61, but when I use this too much, but youngsters are on it all of the time. I mean, they will sit next to each other and send text messages to each other instead of talking. So I think anything that starts to bring sort of society back to a functionality again directly through interpersonal skills, I think is a good thing. Excellent.
Thank you very much. We are now going to make a little dancing TikTok video and put it out there so you can watch us and comment on how terrible we are. All I've got to do now is thank my wonderful panel, political commentator Matthew Stadlen and former leader of UKIP, Henry Bolton. Thank you very much, and a very happy birthday again, Matthew, and I hope you do feel better for today. Thank you very much for soldiering on to a big, brave boy. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. TV chef Gino D'Acampo is the latest star under fire amid inappropriate behaviour allegations, with ITV reportedly slowly sidelining him. What's going on there? All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. We'll see you very soon.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's showbiz time. Ta-da! And I have the wonderful Stephanie Tetchy with me.
Hi,
who's the
Dawn.
Queen.
I'm ready.
Yeah, and looking very festive as well.
I'm your present today.
See, I made a joke about wanting to unwrap Stephanie, but I can't. You can't say that anymore, can
No,
you?
you can't.
Talking of which, Gino D'Acampo might have been saying stuff like that.
Gosh, well, apparently, Dawn, he has been sidelined from ITV because he didn't sign a morality clause. Now, what is a morality clause? So it's something where employers can give to their employees basically to sign that they will not be saying certain things, they won't be acting a certain way, and that the behaviours is in line with the organisation. So why is ITV doing this? Obviously, following the Philip Schofield scandal, there was a big KC review, and they've put out a statement saying, look, we expect our on-screen talent to provide respect to the environment that they work in. So that's why we're trying our hardest to uphold this. Gino D'Acampo, he hasn't been seen on This Morning. He's only done twice, two appearances.
Wasn't he?
He was their resident chef, so he's only done 2 appearances this year. There was that road trip show he had with Fred Felix, and then also Gordon Ramsay. Hasn't seen him there. And then also apparently he was sent on a language and a behavioural course because of one of his shows called Mission Impossible. Apparently he had a bit of a strop with production staff who were then forced to go counselling. Gino hasn't addressed the allegations yet, but it just goes to show where the landscape is going for a lot of broadcasters at the moment. They're trying to save their back, but what are you doing to your on-screen talent? You're basically stifling them, and I can imagine Gino, he's a hot-headed Italian, so I can imagine there's certain things for him. There's a reason why, if it is true, why he didn't sign this clause.
Interesting. It is interesting. It'll be intriguing to see what comes out on the wash in this one.
I'm sure there's going to be more. There's a storm brewing.
Yeah, once that dam breaks, isn't it? But talking of our storms brewing, the jungle, which has been raining quite a bit, by the way. That was the link.
It has been. It hasn't been all but it was really emotional. They had their families coming to visit them, and it's been almost 3 weeks. Colleen's been away from her boys. Her mum and her boys came to see her, and then also we had Danny as well, who had his wife come to see them. But viewers were quite upset because they were saying that Danny and Colleen had extra members of the family to see them, where everyone else just had one. But to be honest, I think, you know what, after 3 weeks, you're just happy to see anybody.
You know the one that made me literally sob?
Which one? Same here. Yeah, I was literally in tears. I found this series quite emotional, actually. I think it's been less fights and just more really getting to know about the celebrities. But tomorrow is the big final, and I am tipping that there is going to be a Queen of the Jungle, Colleen. I think she's been a steady character all the way through. She hasn't rocked the boat. She's been a good team player, so I think she will be crowned Queen. But I think it will be a tough battle between her and Danny.
OK, not OT?
OT, I love her. I think she's done really well. But the thing is, the reason why she hasn't been voted out is because she's had a pass for the last 2 nights. So today, I think she will face eviction. Reverend Richard Coles, who he's actually done well he's actually surged pretty well in the popularity stakes. So I think he could do well, but I don't think it's going to be OT. I think it's either going to be Colleen or Danny. But I am tipping Colleen to be Queen of the Jungle.
It was lovely, those 2 little boys last night.
There was, and and I think...
Oh, actually, I think we're running out of time. Steph, before you go, I just need you to sign this. It's a morality cause. I need counselling after talking to you.
Look.
Steph Tetchy, thank you very much.
Signed on the dotted line for you.
Loads more coming up, but first let's have a look at the weather because it's important this weekend. Here's Ellie Glazer. Thank you.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Darragh continues to bring strong and blustery winds and some heavy rain that will clear its way eastwards through the rest of today. But there are still weather warnings in force as we go into the start of Sunday. That squeeze in the isobars across that western flank of that area of low pressure is what's bringing us those strong winds as we head through the rest of Sunday, with amber wind warnings in force through until Saturday evening. Winds then down a notch as we go through Saturday night into the start of Sunday, but we could still see gusts here of 50 to 60, perhaps 70 miles an hour, and plenty of heavy rain continuing across eastern parts of England, so we could see some localised flooding here. Temperatures, it will be quite a chilly night, although likely staying above zero, although feeling a very chilly and cold start to the day on Sunday with those northerly winds. Be quite a cloudy and damp start to the day across southern and eastern parts of England through Sunday morning. That rain turning persistent in places, but perhaps a bit of a brighter start across parts of southwest England and Wales. Some sunshine in places, and for Northern Ireland too, a bit of a brighter start to the day. Western parts of Scotland seeing those brighter skies as well to start on Sunday morning, but eastern Scotland continuing to stay quite cloudy with plenty of blustery showers around. These perhaps turning to sleet and snow over any high ground. That rain across eastern parts of England does continue through much of the day on Sunday, turning heavy in places and quite persistent as well. So we could see some spray on the roads, some further localised flooding through Sunday afternoon. But the further north and the further west you are, those winds gradually starting to ease and turning a bit brighter with some sunshine through the afternoon. So a bit of a more pleasant day here. Temperatures still remaining around average across the board, although feeling really quite chilly again with that northerly wind, particularly across the southeast, where those winds will still be quite strong. That rain continues across the southeast of England through Sunday evening, although gradually starts to fizzle out into the early hours of Monday morning, but plenty of clear skies across the north and the west, so a chilly start to the day on Monday. There is some sunshine on the horizon though. High pressure does start to build through next week, but that does mean some colder temperatures are on the way.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a complete surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dewes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix, and trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Oh, I love that, the snowflakes. It's all very Christmas. In any case, good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock on Saturday, the 7th of September. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Hope you're nice and cosy on the sofa with a cup of tea. December. Hold on, it's December. What's going on with the script? That wasn't me, honestly. I'm just reading it out loud like a good girl. But it is December. It's the 7th of December, and it is nearly Christmas. And this is the weekend on GB News. Now, the weather, it's not good, is it? It is December, not September. The nightmare before Christmas. Red weather warnings have been issued as Storm Darragh batters parts of the UK with winds of up to 90 miles an hour. And with another storm, Sir Keir Starmer's government reset falling slightly flat and his party being pushed into third place, according to some opinion polls, we'll be debating whether the Prime Minister will survive his full term. And a lovely story after it was nearly destroyed by a devastating fire 5 years ago. Notre-Dame finally opens today following a miraculous rebuilding project. They've done an amazing job, haven't they? I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is indeed The Weekend. So thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a lovely, restful Saturday afternoon. Now, you don't want to be going out, so you may as well just stay snuggled in front of your telly and join in the fun we're going to have, because we've got a cracking hour coming up for you with two wonderful panellists. But it's not about them, it's not about me, it's all about you. So I want you to get involved as much as you can. It's very simple to do so. gbnews.com/your say. Talk about all the subjects we're talking about, some of the stuff we've covered earlier on, or just have a chit-chat about Christmas, because it is December and it is very nearly the big day. Keeping me company, it's Team Girl this hour is former Labour official Halima Khan and journalist and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. Thank you so much, ladies, both looking absolutely gorgeous, it has to be said. But someone else who's looking equally gorgeous, it also has to be said, is Sam Francis, and he's got the news headlines for you.
Dawn, thank you very much. It is just after 2 o'clock. Well, the top story this afternoon. An investigation is now underway after a man died when a tree fell onto his van during Storm Darragh in Lancashire. Emergency services were called at around 9 o'clock this morning near to Lancashire Police Headquarters, where that incident happened. He was sadly pronounced dead at the scene. His family have since been informed and, we understand, are being supported by a specially trained officer. Well, that comes as Storm Darragh has also left over 40,000 homes without power in Wales. Engineers say they are working to restore supplies as soon as possible. The storm, which hit the UK overnight, has brought heavy rain and winds of up to 93 miles an hour, causing widespread disruption. Counties across South and North West Wales have been hit hardest, with some areas facing now severe weather conditions, including flooding. While the Met Office has now lifted the rare red warning, yellow and amber alerts are still in place across affected regions. And travel chaos is continuing, with rail services disrupted, bridges and some roads closed. Passengers at some of the UK's busiest airports have also today described terrifying descents and harrowing landings as air traffic restrictions are in place because of high and dangerous winds. Our reporter Tony Maguire is at Glasgow Airport for us.
As Storm Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the country, Scotland has made it through Friday night relatively unscathed. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, well, they've got flood warnings for essentially all parts of the country, but only 2 have been escalated to flood alerts, and that is in Tayside as well as South Ayrshire. That amber warning that stretches across the northwest of England, well, that also leaks into Dumfries and Galloway, with residents there told to stay inside until the bad weather dies off.
Next, we'll turn away from weather news to a breaking story just coming into us from the Metropolitan Police, that a worker on London's Elizabeth Tube line has died after being attacked on Wednesday evening at Ilford Station. The 61-year-old, a customer service assistant, reportedly suffered head injuries and later died in hospital. The RMT union has since expressed deep sadness, they say, sending condolences to the victim's family and colleagues. We're also hearing a 32-year-old man has since been charged with multiple offences and will appear in court again next month. Police saying they will now amend charges against that 32-year-old following the victim's death. Police also appealing for anyone with information to urgently contact British Transport Police regarding that incident on Wednesday evening. In other news, a 4-year-old boy has died after being hit by a bus in the West Midlands. Police say the accident happened on Tipton High Street just before 5 o'clock on Friday evening, and the driver, they say, is assisting with their inquiries. Officers are now appealing for dashcam footage to help piece together what may have happened. West Midlands Police say their thoughts are with the young boy's family. An explosion has destroyed an apartment complex in The Hague today, injuring multiple people, according to reports. Residents say they were woken by loud bangs and sounds of screaming before dawn, with one woman claiming she thought the blast could have been caused by an earthquake. Part of the building collapsed and a fire broke out, trapping residents inside. So far, 4 people have been rescued and taken to hospital, but authorities fear others may still be trapped. Dutch officials have deployed a specialist search and rescue team with dogs to locate any survivors. There are also appeals for witnesses after a car was reportedly seen speeding away from the scene of that explosion. Here, meanwhile, protesters are gathering outside Downing Street this afternoon, demanding de-escalation between Russia and the West. The Stop the War Coalition and Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament have declared today an emergency day of action, with local events being held across the UK. Activists are urging world leaders to withdraw missiles from Ukraine and avoid what they call the brink of nuclear war. Prince William is set to meet Donald Trump in Paris today ahead of the Notre-Dame Cathedral's grand reopening ceremony. The Prince of Wales will discuss the UK-US special relationship with the President-elect and also meet the outgoing First Lady Jill Biden later. The ceremony is being hosted by the French President and features a special opening of the cathedral's huge doors and a reawakening of its special organ. It's also Prince William's first visit to Paris since 2017. And the countdown to Christmas is certainly on today. A survey shows that the 7th of December is the UK's most popular day to put up a Christmas tree, with nearly a third of us getting festive. The 2nd and the 3rd Saturdays in December follow closely as top choices, but some of you got a head start decorating in November, and a rare few are waiting until Christmas Eve, reportedly snapping up heavily discounted trees. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I will admit that my Christmas tree didn't go down until August last year, so I'm still yet to put it up this time round. Now, though, it's back to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
We need to know more about that, don't we? Sam, the newsreader, the wonderful Sam Francis, has just confessed he left his Christmas tree up until August. I'm assuming it was a plastic one, otherwise it would have been very limp by then, wouldn't it, to say the least? We'll find out more on that breaking story and bring it to you as we go on. OK, now, welcome back. Let's get stuck into today's stories, shall we? Our top story this afternoon, the nightmare before Christmas. No, not Sam's tree. Storm Darragh. It's battering parts of the UK with winds of up to 90 miles an hour. Around 3 million people have been urged to stay indoors after the Met Office issued a rare red weather warning in parts of Wales and southwest of England, although this has now passed, thankfully. But Brits are now braced for a weekend. You know what happens, don't you? Chaos forever. Delayed flights, cancelled trains, and even postponed sports fixtures, with the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool being called off this morning due to safety concerns. Joining me now is weather expert Phil Morris to explain. Phil, hopefully the worst of the storm is past. Is it going to get a bit calmer now for us?
Most of us, the worst of the storm is past, as you say. She came in last night from the northwest. She deepened to a 977 low pressure over western Scotland. She's now sitting northeast of Cromer, Norfolk, 984, and the strongest winds were in the west, up to 94 miles an hour in parts of Wales. Cardiff had 68 miles an hour, and Liverpool had 58 miles an hour, and very sensibly they decided to leave the football match and postpone it. I remember here in Leicester 20 years ago at the King Power, somebody was tragically killed walking along, and it is flying debris which causes the trouble. And so now that most of the worst of the storm is leaving the west, so winds to the west are now going to go down to 50 to 60 miles an hour. Some parts of the East Midlands are still picking up as the low moves into the North Sea, and certainly Sheffield just had a gust of 70. Certainly for the rest of the week, it's going to stay a wet weekend, wet and windy, particularly in the southeast, lots of rain as that low pressure now moves across to Belgium, and then we'll get the low pressure and the rain with winds 40 to 50 miles an hour tomorrow as well. So a very nasty storm, a very, very intense storm with Darragh, but the worst is over in the west.
Well, that's good news at least. But it's not, these storms aren't unusual at this time of year. I mean, the red weather warning storms are, I know, but storms in general aren't that unusual at this time of year. How do we always seem so woefully unprepared for them?
Well, he's saying 2 or 3 of these storms in December is quite likely. This was our 4th named storm of the season. And in December, they are quite likely. This one is a bit further south than it usually is. It's come across the UK, and they usually go between Scotland and Iceland. This one's a bit further south. I think whatever happens with the weather in Britain, we're never quite prepared. We're always left caught out. But the warnings have been great. I think it was a great idea for the Met Office last night to put that red warning siren out so people at least realise what is happening and know what to do and make a choice to go out or not. And that is what's saving lots of lives now. People are realising that these are dangerous storms. They stay indoors, and the risk of flying debris is much reduced, and death casualties are much, much lower than they were in the early 90s. For instance, the Burns Day storm of 1990, 47 people were killed during the day. Thankfully, today it looks like it's only 1 or 2, tragically, but a lot less. So it's great to have those warnings out and for people to understand what's coming and be prepared for it.
Talking of warnings, Phil, I think there's this new system where the government actually sends an alarm to your phone. Can you explain a bit more about that? Because I didn't get one.
What it is, they send it very precision now. That Leicester yesterday, the red warning went for Western Scotland, west of Wales, southwest England. So all the people living in that area, they programmed for that alarm to go off at 6:45 last night, and a loud pitch wail went off, and it's even actually live on some local TV stations. The reporters had them in the pockets, and they went off as well. And most people were made aware of that. Somebody didn't realise what it was about, but they did. So that was an excellent way of informing people what's to come, and that's a very good localised way of forming debate of what's to occur. But the worst of this one is over for most of us, and the rest of the week, as it's going to be much better after tomorrow with an area of high pressure and no more wind for another week.
Brilliant. That sounds good news at least. Thank you very much, Phil Morris, weather expert. Thank you very much. Did you get a weather warning? I didn't. I didn't know they existed, but they do evidently, and they seem to be working. Right, OK, let's move on. Let's talk about Keir Starmer, shall we? 'Cause someone's got to. He's endured, I think it's fair to say, a bit of a difficult week. Questions are being asked of whether the Prime Minister has the leadership qualities to survive his full term. Not only did his government reset, though they're denying it's a reset, but one opinion poll put his party in 3rd place behind the Conservatives and Reform UK. To discuss this, I'm joined by my wonderful team girl today, former Labour official Halima Khan and journalist and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. Halima, I'm going to come to you first. Good to see you this afternoon. The reset was a bit of a word soup of missions and foundations and milestones, or millstones, as Nigel Farage said. I literally had no idea what he was doing. It sounded like a reset to me 6 months in. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's no better or expert in weather vane politics other than Keir Starmer. He is somebody that I consider a compulsive, repulsive liar. He'll always present ideas and promises that he'll never fulfil. So I'm quite pleased to see that his promises, no one's buying it, and rightly so, we shouldn't be buying it. You know, talking about a great reset now, after the fact that he was only just elected as Prime Minister a few months ago, is a very concerning sign for the general public, because we don't know what to expect from this government if he's changing tack so quickly. I think that he spent his entire time in opposition calling the Tory party sleaze, but he ended up showcasing himself as one of the sleaziest politicians we've had as well.
But yeah, he hasn't covered himself in glory. He's covered himself in freebies from Lord Ali, mostly, from what we can work out. I mean, Claire, what do you make? I mean, it is quite difficult. Unlike the Conservatives, who seem to be able to change Labour and change leader and Prime Ministers at the drop of a hat. It's quite difficult to actually unseat a Labour Prime Minister from within the party, isn't it?
Well, you know, that's up to the Labour Party and the Labour Party members to do that, if that is the case. However, from his speech 2 days ago, he left out 2 very fundamental points that everyone is talking about at the moment. Immigration and net migration was not mentioned at all, right? And nor was his ability to deal with anything like that. He didn't even talk about defence and the positive increase in GDP spending that we know we need to keep us safe and defend us as a nation. So he's missing out an awful lot. It is completely a word salad, or word soup, as you've just said. And I really still don't know who's advising number 10, because the comms are atrocious. I mean, we can even look to the optic of him turning on the lights outside number 10, the Christmas tree lights.
Oh, the countdown.
My God. It was absolutely awful. It was toe-curlingly bad. I expected it to be a scene in Ricky Gervais's wonderful The Office. and as I said the other day, I expected Rachel Reeves to be pedalling at number 11 to get the generator going to actually make the lights work, because Keir Starmer himself seemed quite dumbfounded that the lights worked. Well, I'm not surprised, because nothing else is working in Britain at the moment. Is it?
No, absolutely. And the other story this week concerning this is Reform overtaking Labour. OK, it was only one poll, but with 2 high-profile Conservatives, Andrea Jenkins and Tim Montgomery, jumping ship to go to Reform, and they've got past 100,000 members. And many are now saying Reform believe they will form the next government. Many are saying this is potential because Keir Starmer is just not fit to be Labour leader.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the people aren't generally voting Reform because they believe in Reform. They're voting for a party that they believe is anti-establishment. But one of the things that we need to be paying attention to was Keir Starmer crossing the floor to go shake hands with Nigel Farage. And they were just smiling, looking like they were having a friendly conversation. These are the same politicians that push division on the community, saying, don't talk to each other, stay separated. But they talk to each other in front of us, plain to see. So I think that I don't believe that Reform will win the next government, but maybe, you know, I think Conservatives might come back in and they might do a coalition, is more likely than Reform winning. But, yeah, I think that, you know, just on the point that you made about immigration, Starmer claims that he's deported and sent more people back on flights than the Conservative government. So I don't really see there being any much difference between the mainstream parties. I think they're all doing the same thing, and they're trying to confuse us as, you know, lay people that just want justice.
I think the The rallying for reform comes from what's happened over the pond with the Trump administration newly elected due in January. And I think this is the risk that politicians take in this country, especially the established elite, when they ignore the populist vote, when they ignore every single taxpayer who is working really hard to make ends meet, to pay their bills, to look after their family, to try and do the best for their family and their extended family and friendship circle, and yet they seem to be shafted right, left and centre.
But the whole manifesto, I mean, it was about working people, protecting working people.
They couldn't even define a working person, let alone a woman, on the run-up to that general election. Labour just couldn't do it, Dawn.
And we've heard today, it's officially Small Business Saturday today, and we've heard from small businesses saying, we are not going to cope in the new year because of all the new regulations that have been brought in.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the first things that he did was scrap two-child benefit tax and decide to freeze the elderly. He's not for the working class. He never really was. I think, like I said, he played a strategic position to get into leadership by gaslighting the working class that believed him. And then they did the same thing with when he won the general election. I think a lot of people just wanted Tories out, so they voted him thinking that he would represent the working class, and then he ended up betraying everybody that voted for him.
I just can't stand these career politicians. And we need to look to his backstory. When he was head of the DPP, when he was CPS, rape convictions went down, OK? He had the Savile portfolio on his desk at the time.
Oh, he said he didn't notice it, though, because you wouldn't notice something like that, would you?
Pretty bulging.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't.
And the Hugh Edwards case as well from the BBC. So there's a lot in his history that would actually show that he was not fit for purpose. So I don't understand why he was unearthed, voted the Labour leader. And I'm sorry, they had 14 years in opposition to come up with something tangible that they could attack the woeful Tory Conservative government that we had for the past 14 years. I'm completely disenfranchised. It's a complete omnishamble, and I think the public are clasping on and are grasping to reform for something that they believe in. And I'm sorry, but they don't have the answers either. Farage is big and bluster. He is not dealing with the minutiae of a manifesto. He was asked continuously during question time to dig down, die down, and give us the actual feature and the points. He couldn't do it. No.
Well, I think the question time was very interesting when he was with Alistair Campbell, and he didn't mention to when he was talking about Brexit, Alistair Campbell was saying, well, you lied about Brexit. Farage didn't say you lied about Iraq, right?
Yeah, but that was the obvious comeback. I was a bit curious about that one. In any case, young lady, lots of love in the room for you. Kez says, wow, an honest lefty. She's certainly got the measure of insincere care. So refreshing. And Saul says, the first time I've ever seen your guest, she's a breath of fresh air.
Oh,
you always get lots of love in any case, Claire. So keep those coming. gbnews.com/your say. Join in the debate or just say nice things about any of us, by the way. Hello, I'm here as well. For all the best analysis and opinion on that story and all the stories we're covering today, gbnews.com. I am indeed Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. TV chef Gino D'Acampo becomes the latest star to be sidelined due to accusations of inappropriate behaviour. So I'm going to ask now, is it time to completely ban any banter in the workplace? All of that and to come. See you soon. Dagatifa.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Cryptocurrency entrepreneur Justin Sun spent $6.2 million, £4.9 million on a banana, duct taped to a wall, a piece of art by artist Mauricio Catalan. Other artwork has recently caused controversy. A portrait of the British computer scientist Alan Turing by the world's first ultra-realistic robot artist, that is, say, ADAR, sold at auction for almost $1.1 million. Joining me now to talk about these latest hoo-has is art critic and mentor at the University of Arts London, Estelle Lovett. I have a feeling that in the case of the banana, it's quite a lot to do with the buyer. Now, you've researched the buyer a little bit. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Justin Sun?
Yes, so he's a very wealthy cryptocurrency dealer. And of course, you know, everything now is AI and FTs. And it's the way that money's going, and it's very good publicity for him. So obviously, you know, he's not daft. But what makes this banana so unusual is, and it has, as you say, taken the art world by storm. It is the current spectacle, and what's amazing is that even during these very difficult times, the art market still manages to spend big on a significant fuss. Why has it created this fuss? Well, don't forget, the winning bid just happened in a matter of minutes. It took Justin Sun minutes to beat 6 other rivals, so they've all got mega bucks in their pocket. But you know, it's conceptual art at its best.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Needham, and the brilliant panellists Helena Khan and Claire Muldoon. And Claire, young lady over this side,
what have I done now?
You were fondling that bauble. I'm sorry, you were gonna. She's got an eye on the baubles. Well, we've got lovely, lovely trees in the studio, and Claire.
Can you believe that? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No. She was. I'm sorry. She was. In any case, you can join.
It's only because you said you wanted one.
Well, yeah,
I was doing it for you.
Yeah. Right. If you believe that,
for your tree.
You can join
your white tree.
You can. Yeah, it is. Yeah. You can join in this banter by visiting gbnews.com/ and join in the conversation, or our socials at GB News. And we're talking about banter because we are talking about men and banter. TV chef Gino D'Acampo is the latest star to be accused of inappropriate behaviour and banter, with ITV reportedly slowly sidelining him. This comes as more people come forward with allegations against MasterChef co-host Greg Wallace, who is reportedly set to blame autism for his inappropriate actions. So now, obviously, some of the accusations against Greg Wallace go a lot further than banter, which he has denied, by the way. But so we're putting that to one side. What we're talking about here is just workplace banter. We're not talking inappropriate touching or sort of like, you know, really, really, really sort of like, you know, sexist stuff. We're just talking about having a joke in the office. And is it time to actually ban it? I'm going to come to bauble fondler in the corner over here, Claire Muldoon.
Well, look, the question I'm sure you're just about to pose me is, should it be banned? Right, but...
Yes, should we ban banter?
No, we shouldn't, and I'll tell you why. Because we cannot police it. You can ban whatever you want, but you cannot police it, because if I'm offended by something, doesn't mean to say that you would be offended by it. We're all offended by different things. What I perceive as being workplace banter, Halima might not, and she might be offended, but I'll tell you, we actually have processes in place just now within workplaces, and it's called the burden of proof for responsibility, and the burden of ideological onus lies with the employer. If I find that I have felt that my rights or I have been demeaned in any way, it is the employer at the time, it's their responsibility to take action. Now, come on, it's very good in terms of protection, but I'm sorry, we work in a news environment. We work in a very fast-paced, moving environment where banter, you know, makes things work.
And black humour.
Black humour as well. And there's often a thing that you might say, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. It will make very dull watching, OK? It will make things so sanitised, so homogenised. People are going to end up turning off, and they're going to go to places like YouTube where there is no restriction, where there is no Ofcom, when there is absolutely nothing. And then that's it. So the problem with this the big problem I have, is cancelling, is changing, is stopping, is telling people you can't do things, because all that does is drive things under. I would far rather see and deal with what I'm dealing with than actually hear it secondhand or think, you know, is this going to erupt into something bigger?
But we are getting to the stage now, Halima, aren't we, where people are being asked to sign morality clauses in offices.
Yeah, and often it's the most immoral people asking you to sign morality
that's a good point,
I think
actually.
The bosses don't ever really have much accountability themselves, but they're trying to enforce their ideology on the workers. I think that the whole banning of banter is absolutely ridiculous. I think that, you know, if we don't have something that's light-hearted in any working environment, aside from newsrooms, then it just makes work even more miserable than it already is. I think people are sensible enough to know when your humour is going to be offensive or when it will be taken in jest. If it's deemed as offensive, there should be processes.
Is there a thing? I mean, you're obviously a young woman, Halima. Is there an age difference here? Is something that maybe Claire and I would find funny and laugh at going to be more offensive to a younger generation of young women?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, because, you know, me and my friends probably have humour that if it was public, we'll probably get cancelled as well. You know, I don't think it's an age kind of thing. I think that, you know, like I said, it depends on who you're listening to, who you get your political ideologies from, and what you think your tribe is not always your tribe, really, to be honest. So I think that I can't say for certain if there's an age difference kind of thing, but I do see, you know, people are choosing to be offended in things where there isn't that much offence. And
there's no offence meant. And I'm not talking specifically here about anything that Greg Wallace has done or said.
This is just
I mean, I'm talking about this as workplace banter, as I perceive it. And I think we need to laugh more. Laughter is the old idiom, laughter's the best tonic. It really, really is. And if we can laugh at ourselves, and if we can laugh at other people fondly, OK? Don't laugh at in a bullying way.
No.
But come on, jokes are funny, people are funny. Billy Connolly, Ricky Gervais, two of the funniest men I think are alive. And a lot of people, they would be, you know, they are being cancelled in certain parts of the world.
It's interesting because, I mean, there's certainly a sex divide in this debate, and many of you are getting in touch, certainly to borrow a phrase from Greg Wallace, men of a certain age, are saying, look, it's just a joke, love. Get over it. Don't get offended. I mean, do you understand why people are saying that?
Well, I understand, but then I also think that men tend to not understand the nuances because, you know, sometimes, you know, I think that there shouldn't really be morality training, but there should be sexism training generally across the board, so there's no lines being blurred. I think that if a woman says that they were offended, the man should listen, not take offence that they're saying that they're being offended.
I think he should stop.
Yeah.
If she says she's offended, I think she should stop and that's it. You know, move on.
Exactly.
You know, let's not dwell on things that might not have been meant to cause offence, because then that's, again, the thought police. You know, you can't help if you offend someone, but if they tell you, then you know not to do it again.
Well, I think also another problem lies in, like, employment tribunal processes and grievance processes. They're not watertight. They always side with the employer. So if there was secure processes that support workers, then you can take it up that route and then get to the facts of the matter and what actually happened. But
then that takes time. And what do you do? People need to be employed. They need cash. The job still needs to be done. You know, people just need to get a life, jog on and, you know, enjoy life as much as they possibly can.
And are you offended by anything Claire's just said? Let me know, gbnews.com/.
And if you want a bauble, I'll get you one too.
And, yeah, she's going to give you a bauble as well if you want one. And if you find that offensive, there's really no hope for you. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. But first, let's get the news with what's another lovely young man, can I say that? Joe Casper.
Thanks, Dawn. You absolutely can say that. It's 32 minutes past 2. I'm Joe Casper in the GB Newsroom. An investigation is underway after a man died when a tree fell onto his van during Storm Darragh in Lancashire. Emergency services were called at around 9 a.m. this morning near to Lancashire Police headquarters where the incident happened. He was pronounced dead at the scene. His family have been informed and are being supported by a specially trained officer. Elsewhere, Storm Darragh has left more than 40,000 homes without power in Wales, with engineers working to restore supplies. The storm, which hit the UK overnight, has brought heavy rain and winds of up to 93 miles an hour, causing widespread disruption. Counties across South and North West Wales have been hardest hit, with some areas facing severe weather conditions, including flooding. While the Met Office has lifted the rare red warning, yellow and amber alerts are still in place across affected regions. The weather has impacted travel, with rail service disrupted, bridges and roads closed. Passengers at some of the UK's biggest airports have also described harrowing landings as air traffic restrictions are in place. Our Scotland reporter Tony Maguire is at Glasgow Airport for us.
As Storm Darragh continues to wreak havoc across the country, Scotland has made it through Friday night relatively unscathed. The Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, well, they've got flood warnings for essentially all parts of the country, but only 2 have been escalated to flood alerts, and that is in Tayside as well as South Ayrshire. That amber warning that stretches across the northwest of England, well, that also leaks into Dumfries and Galloway, with residents there told to stay inside until the bad weather dies off.
And some breaking news for you. A worker on London's Elizabeth line has died after being attacked at Ilford Station on Wednesday evening. 61-year-old, a customer service assistant, suffered serious head injuries and later died in hospital. The R&T union has expressed deep sadness, sending condolences to the victim's family and colleagues. A 32-year-old man has been charged with multiple offences and will appear in court again next month. Anyone with information is urged to contact British Transport Police. Prince William is set to meet Donald Trump in Paris ahead of Notre-Dame's cathedral's grand reopening ceremony. The Prince of Wales will discuss the UK's and US special relationship with the President-elect and meet outgoing First Lady Jill Biden. The ceremony, hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, features the opening of the cathedral's huge doors, the reawakening of its organ, and the first Mass since its restoration. It's William's first visit to Paris since 2017, following his trip after the Brexit referendum. And the countdown to Christmas begins in earnest this weekend. A survey shows today, the 7th of December, is the UK's most popular day to put up a Christmas tree, with nearly a third of households getting festive. The second and third Saturdays in December follow as top choices, but some get a head start decorating in November. A rare few wait until Christmas Eve, snapping up heavily discounted trees. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Joe Casper. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Joe. Barbara, you are going to get me into all sorts of trouble. I'm going to read your comment out. It's difficult for men to know what or what not to say because it takes a certain type of brain with logic and rationale. Barbara saying that? Not me. That's Barbara saying that. OK. I'm Dawn Neeson, Mr GB News, Britain's news show, and I think I've just put myself in all sorts of problems. We've got loads coming up on our show for you, but at 3 o'clock it's the wonderful Nana Aquia, who has always got a real cracker of a show for you. Nana, what you got today?
Well, of course, we're going to be talking about Sadiq Khan, whether, I mean, look, it's the Financial Times, or the first report, that he may well be in line for a knighthood. I personally can't see why that would be the case, but my panel will be discussing that, and I'll be looking into that in my niggle. Plus, I've actually just come back from Paris and France, which was lovely. So we'll be asking you whether you think, actually, America are going to be very good for the UK in terms of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is meeting with Prince William and today in France, and it's wonderful, isn't it? Then Reform UK. Do you believe that they could really seriously win the next general election? That's what's been touted. That's coming up.
Brilliant. That sounds a real humdinger of a show there. Thank you very much, Nana. Remember, let us know the thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today by visiting gbnews.com/. And like Barbara, you can even try and get me in trouble, can't you? There's loads more coming up on today's show. We'll be back in Paris ahead of Notre-Dame's reopening. All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News, and we'll see you very soon.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Darragh continues to bring some very disruptive and perhaps damaging weather in places as we head through the rest of Saturday and into the start of Sunday. It continues to sink its way south and eastwards through the rest of the day, but it's on this western flank that we'll see those strongest winds with a real squeeze in those isobars through the rest of today. We've got amber, wind and rain warnings in force across western areas. We could see gusts here of 60 to 70, perhaps 80 miles an hour at the coast, and also some heavy rain too across northern and eastern parts of England and southern parts of Wales, so we could see some localised flooding in places. Temperatures will be round about average for the time of year, but with that very brisk northerly wind, it'll be feeling much colder than those temperatures are stating. As we then go into Saturday evening, the outbreaks of heavy rain do continue. Across parts of Scotland, we could see this rain turning to sleet and snow, particularly over any high ground, and across eastern areas it could be quite persistent in places. Across Northern Ireland, a little bit brighter to end the day, some clear spells overnight, although still some blustery showers pushing in from the north. Across much of England and Wales, though, a cloudy end to the day, plenty of outbreaks of rain around, particularly across northern and eastern parts of England and southern parts of Wales too. Through the rest of Saturday evening, continuing to see those strong winds across western areas, although them just down a touch compared to what we saw on Saturday morning, but continuing to see outbreaks of heavy rain across eastern parts of England, so adding to some localised flooding in places here. Temperatures overnight will be a little bit above average, staying above zero with those brisk northerly winds, but it will be feeling really chilly to start the day on Sunday morning, particularly where you're exposed to that northerly wind. A damp start to the day across eastern parts of England, outbreaks of rain continuing to push their way south and eastwards, although perhaps becoming persistent at times. But across western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, those winds really starting to ease down, and we might even see some sunshine through the afternoon, so feeling a bit more pleasant here. Temperatures will still be around average for the time of year, but it will be feeling really quite chilly under that cloud in that northerly wind.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Loving you lot this afternoon. You're being really, really cuddly. It must be the festive spirit. I'm going to read this one out because you've dared me not to, Ian. This is from Ian. I love Halima for a bit of honesty and someone on the left. Don't disagree with anything she has said so far. As far as workplace banter goes, I haven't got an answer. But I would like to ask, is she single? I dare you to read this out, Dawn. Well, I just did. That's
I'm looking for a husband.
She's looking for a husband. You heard her. And she can cope with banter as well. What more do you want in a woman, eh? No, so lots of you have been sending your thoughts, and exactly like Ian and Barbara, who are getting me in trouble, all sorts of trouble. So keep them coming in at gbnews.com/your say, and let me know the stories on all the stories we're talking about today, or as it's Christmas, anything you want to chat about, to be honest with you. Now, we're off to Paris. Fancy it, Paris? Where today there will be a ceremonial reopening of the world-famous Notre-Dame Cathedral, 5 years after it nearly destroyed by that devastating fire. Donald Trump has flown to attend the ceremony, and Prince William will also be in attendance. It's also been revealed that the Prince of Wales will have a meeting with the US President-elect Trump today. French President Emmanuel Macron will be hoping the occasion will distract from the political turmoil, I think, is the polite way of putting it, in the country. And that's after Prime Minister Michel Barnier was ousted in a no-confidence vote in the week. GB News political correspondent is out there for us, and she's got all the details.
Huge day for France as Notre-Dame Cathedral reopens 5.5 years after that horrific fire. 50 heads of state and dignitaries, 1,500 people invited to the opening later on this afternoon, including some very, very important figures indeed. President-elect Trump is here. Jill Biden, the First Lady, is here. Prince William is here representing the United Kingdom. Now, we understand that Prince William will be meeting with Trump later this afternoon, and we also understand that President Macron at the Elysee Palace will be meeting with Trump, and then subsequent to that with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We know, of course, that Trump has said that he will end the war in Ukraine in one day. Zelensky may have a rather different view of that, I suspect. So a huge moment for France, a real showcase. Notre-Dame returned to its former splendour. 2,000 people involved in the restoration and some several £100,000 worth of work. But this comes against an incredibly difficult backdrop because the French government here has collapsed, and Macron is deeply unpopular with many. Many French people would like to see him gone. Now, he addressed the nation the other day. He said he's going nowhere. He's staying on till 2027, but Parliament is stuck because basically what happened is he called a parliamentary election in the summer. That resulted in a sort of stalemate, 3 blocks, the left, the centre and the right, none of which are on good terms with the other. Michel Barnier, who was the Prime Minister, tried to force through a budget, lost a vote of confidence and has resigned. Now, President Macron has not replaced him as yet. We're looking for that in the coming days. But meanwhile, there is a caretaker government, but they can't have an election for another year. And it's very, very difficult to see how they're going to get out of this mess. The French economy not in a good state at all, and worth reflecting, I think, though many people in Britain will think that a lot of things in Britain are not working properly. There's a very similar feeling here in France, a lot of disaffection, the economy not going well, similar in Germany where the government there has also collapsed, elections next year. All this comes against a very difficult backdrop and an incoming President Trump who may be about to slap tariffs on European goods going to America. So a huge day here, a diplomatic coup for President Macron, but real problems here in France.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And that ceremony is going to be taking place tonight. I think it's our 5 o'clock our time, 6 o'clock in France. Just want to read a quick message out. Mick, we're talking about office banter and dark humour in the workplace. And Mick, you say, my God, Dawn, spend an hour in the company of a few veterans or a few army lads. You will soon know what dark humour is. Mick, my love, I did, and I do understand it, which is why I'm not signing any morality contracts anytime soon. Now, today is the most popular day to put up a Christmas tree in the UK, according to a survey by Furniture Box. A third of households are marking the start of the festive season by buying and decorating their tree in the first weekend of December. And this weekend is one of the UK's biggest indoor Christmas tree festivals being held at Beverley Minster even. Anna Riley has the full story for you.
Deck the halls. Christmas has come to Beverley Minster. It's hosting one of Britain's biggest Christmas tree festivals. There's over 150 trimmed fir trees on display at the medieval church.
They're all just with 100 white lights on. So there's a sort of a calmness about it. There's no flashing lights, there's no coloured lights. But then people start to witness what's happening. And one of the most important things to me is when someone says to me at the end of it, do you know what? I wasn't looking forward to Christmas, but now you've given me hope. That's what it's about.
From sunflowers to snowflakes and alpacas to angels, each tree has its own unique theme, designed and decorated by the community in Beverley and beyond. Charity, schools, businesses and local groups are all part of the event.
We represent Beverley Westwood Parkrun here in Beverley. So we've got volunteers and participants on the tree. When you've done 10, 25, 50 park runs, you can get a milestone T-shirt. So we've got milestone T-shirts on the tree. We've got some of the little rules about dogs, one owner, each on a short lead, children, some of the signs that people will see out on the course. So it just encapsulates everything.
We've done it for quite a few years now, and with a different theme every year, or tried to, and it's a great thing to be part of. We try to help people locally, raise money for good causes.
Pygmy goats also made a guest appearance. They're part of Therapony and Ascend, who have a Christmas tree on display. The charity provides animal interactions for children and adults with special needs.
So we've got our 3 pygmy goats. They're 10 months old. This one is Harry, this one is Kobe, and this one is Darwin. So they're mad. They're mad, but they bring so much joy, and you can just see people just smile whenever they see them, and that's the whole idea of what we do. It's just to bring that extra something into people's lives.
The festival promises a magical experience under the Minster's soaring roof, with visitors in for a tremendous festive treat. Anna Riley, GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Healthwatch has revealed that men are more likely to suffer from this than women, did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So the things that are different about seasonal affective disorder are that for the diagnosis you need 2 years in which you only have episodes during either the late autumn or early winter. So that's when they start, and they fade away by late spring, summer. Early summer. So that's how it works. And you cannot have any episodes at any other time. So it has to be seasonal, specifically seasonal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, Princess of Wales hosted her annual carol service at Westminster Abbey last night, and I have to say she looked absolutely stunning. Part of her return to royal duties after what must be fairly horrific cancer treatment she's been going through all year. The Together at Christmas event celebrates love and empathy, and there were 1,600 guests invited who supported others. In a letter to the attendees, Catherine said, "Love is the light that can shine bright even in our darkest times." Joining us now is royal commentator Jack Stooks. Jack, thank you for joining us. I have to say, it was wonderful. It's very emotional, and Catherine looked absolutely stunning.
As always, she always, I mean, just she knows how to shine, how to make an appearance, doesn't she? And what was fantastic is that the family let her obviously go in and start the proceedings by herself, and then she went out and brought the family in, having had the children put some notes on the tree outside. So it was nice to see that they sort of gave her the spotlight, and then they joined her, and it was just a full-on family affair there to support the prince, his wife, and the young prince and princess, their mother. So I thought it was amazing. It shows she is back on form, and I mean, she really is the gilding to the royal family at the moment, isn't she? So lovely to see, and I think the event went terrifically well. Yeah. I know that the press were amazing, and very happy to see her back, as was everybody that were there to support the event.
It was indeed, and it was very positive. I believe in the letter she wrote that was given to everybody there, she mentioned the word love 14 times, which is what it's about. Thank you very much, ex-commentator Jack Stooks. And,
thank you.
Well, all it is left to say is thank you for joining us this afternoon. Really appreciate your company, especially on such a busy day just before Christmas. Huge thanks to Helena Khan and Claire Muldoon for joining me this last hour. You can catch up on any of the show. It's on gbnews.com, and I would advise it because it's very funny parts of it. But don't go anywhere, because there's plenty more coming up on GB News today. In a moment, it's Fiery Debate with Nana Aquia, and at 6 o'clock, it's the Saturday 5. But it's all about the weather, so let's see what it's doing. Here's Ellie Glazier with all your details for you. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't go too far.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Darragh continues to bring strong and blustery winds and some heavy rain that will clear its way eastwards through the rest of today. But there are still weather warnings in force as we go into the start of Sunday. That squeeze in the isobars across that western flank of that area of low pressure is what's bringing us those strong winds as we head through the rest of Sunday, with amber wind warnings in force through until Saturday evening. Winds then down a notch as we go through Saturday night into the start of Sunday, but we could still see gusts here of 50 to 60, perhaps 70 miles an hour, and plenty of heavy rain continuing across eastern parts of England, so we could see some localised flooding here. Temperatures, it will be quite a chilly night, although likely staying above zero, although feeling a very chilly and cold start to the day on Sunday with those northerly winds. Be quite a cloudy and damp start to the day across southern and eastern parts of England through Sunday morning. That rain turning persistent in places, but perhaps a bit of a brighter start across parts of southwest England and Wales. Some sunshine in places, and for Northern Ireland too, a bit of a brighter start to the day. Western parts of Scotland seeing those brighter skies as well to start on Sunday morning, but eastern Scotland continuing to stay quite cloudy with plenty of blustery showers around. These perhaps turning to sleet and snow over any high ground. That rain across eastern parts of England does continue through much of the day on Sunday, turning heavy in places and quite persistent as well. So we could see some spray on the roads, some further localised flooding through Sunday afternoon. But the further north and the further west you are, those winds gradually starting to ease and turning a bit brighter with some sunshine through the afternoon. So a bit of a more pleasant day here. Temperatures still remaining around